Hey guys, what up? Welcome. We have a few videos to watch today. I was going to just hop straight into the lore like we did yesterday, kind of complete the story of the Maven and all of that, which is where we left off. We finished the Shaper, finished Elder. We need to watch the Siege of the Atlas and some other lore videos. But anyways, I saw this and I just had to click. So I mean, it's minion stuff, y'all know. So oh, that reminds me. There was a comment I was supposed to reply to. I responded. But yeah, with this video, I am going to edit. And yes. I will be okay. We've replied that comment now. So now I see another comment. Give me a second. But yeah, the plan for today, we're going to continue watching lore videos, but we need to see what this is. I know they revealed the ascendancies after the leaks forced their hands. So I kind of already know they've been slight changes between the leaks and the revealed versions. Like they made the ES for reserved life Infernalist node half as effective. Titan, they nerfed the max life from 20 to 15. Off the top of my head, they added less block chance as well for the Warbringer, whatever that ascendancy is called, Warrior ascendancy in any case. But yeah, I want to see what he thinks. I think the breast ascendancies are the only two ascendancies I have seen so far that make sense for minions are Infernalists and Gemlin Legionnaire. Now, if you're going for a hybrid, then there is a use case where you go to something like a monk. Monk could be decent because of the evasion PDR. I think Monk had the spirit chess piece, right? There could be an interesting synergy there where you opt out of like really scaling spirit on equipment like scepters, and then you really just go for those nearby ally nodes. If not Monk, wait, that, and by the way, and by Monk I mean the avatar form. I forget the name. The non-Chayula one. The Chayula one, it depends. So I personally think we would be able to reserve darkness for we'll be able to reserve darkness for persistent skills, but of course without testing we don't know, so it's possible that we can't, possible that we can't. But that ascendancy just has 600 free spirit at level 100, assuming you can reserve the spirit or the darkness. So that could also be potentially one. I don't know, there aren't too many choices, but I know once I'm done with my Infernalist, I plan to go Gemlin, and after Gemlin, probably Warrior. Those are probably my different that's probably what I have planned for build sequences or ascendancy sequences and things I want to try. But anyways, let's see this video.
So I'm gonna play PoE 2 on Friday. I'll probably still do a little bit of Bazaar, but PoE 2 is a game I've been anticipating.
How on the boot when suffixes cannot plus reforge elemental can you add another suffix? Trying to emulate and Wraeclast. To add an elemental res mod, you would need an open suffix. Since the meta mod does not prevent adding an affix, so if you already have 3 suffixes, it won't work.
Anticipating for several years. I want to play minions. I think they're going to be jank, but I want to play minions.
I agree. They're going to be mad jank, especially with the weapon swap system and all of these things. Like minions are definitely going to be a rougher archetype to play come launch, come EA launch, I think.
Open image, a new tab. All right, so this is Stormweaver. So I thought this was going to be like Elementalist. Elemental Storm. All damage from hits contribute to chill magnitude. Shock chance, arcane surge. Elemental damage taken recouped as energy shield. 1% area of effect. Oh, effective arcane surge per 15 max mana. So probably it's like Hierophant, you stack arcane surge. Looks pretty mid. Chronomancer. This is like the Time Wizard. 30% chance not to consume a cooldown when used. That's kind of annoying. Time
How is that
Snap
annoying?
Great. Time Freeze is great.
It could be awkward,
great.
but I don't see it being
Every 12
annoying.
seconds gain 50 more cast speed for 4 seconds.
Especially if you opt in for it, because it means an ascendancy you pick.
Seems okay. Enemy in your presence are slow by 20. That's insane.
Yeah, this is a very strong node. I really like this one. I really like this. I saw some talk about potentially pairing this with Blasphemy Temporal Chains. So enemies around you really feel that, like, you really just see them move in slow motion. That'd be kind of fun to see.
Okay, I might actually play this as minions. You can probably just do a recoup.
I don't think so. I wouldn't go Chronomancer as minions unless you really like the idea of just stopping time and everything and you wanted to go for a hybrid build. I don't think Chronomancer is the play. Like the ascendancies, if you were to go Chronomancer, would either, there are 2 reasons why you'd go Chronomancer for minions. You are relying solely on a cooldown skill, maybe one of the minions' active abilities or something else. You're relying a lot on that. So you wanted the cooldown refresh, or you wanted to be like hardcore and play really safe, have this slow, be able to pause enemies, have the recoup, be very defensive. Like then, sure, you could go Chronomancer, but in a softcore environment, I wouldn't do this.
I think recoup is normally over 3, so over 4 is like 33% more recoup.
You know, this is over, it's typically over 4, then you can change it to be over 3 in PoE 1. And it's not really more recoup, it's the same amount, it's just spread over a longer period of time, so it's less recoup per second, which is just worse. But the fact that this is an ascendancy means that at base, recoup in PoE 2 likely lasts 5 or 6 seconds, but because an ascendancy is supposed to be very strong, I assume it's actually 6 seconds. Like I'm inclined to believe recoup now occurs over 6 seconds, which is very, very weak compared to PoE 1's recoup.
Wow, it's actually pretty good. Time Wizard Summoner. It's on the table.
Nah, I wouldn't do it.
Maybe I'll compare a little bit later.
I wouldn't do it.
Titan is one of the things I was considering because one of the nodes was 20% health, stone skin, 50 more armor.
Can I just say, the Warbringer is also a decent
Body
ascendancy.
armor.
Not necessarily for minions,
Okay.
but for totems, if you want to play totems. And it does have a very, very interesting minion, i.e. ancestral spirits. And those ancestral spirits, depending on what moves they do, I can see myself potentially just sending a Warbringer minion build just because, just to focus on them.
Carry a chest with 20 inventory slots, 50% increase of small passive skills. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, and that small passive skill is actually insane. This one, insane. But I wouldn't go Titan. I wouldn't do that for minions.
That's on the table too. Oh, it's 15% more life now. Okay. So you get 15%.
Because if I were to look at this, minions would end up going 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Okay, it is kind of a decent ascendance. Like, it's not anything crazy. It can work. Not optimal.
More life, which is the
but
8.
It can work.
And you get 50% more armor from body armor in 1. And then you get inventory slots and passive skills on 5. It stacks with jewel multipliers. Yeah, it's good. Good.
Oh, it does. So, additively or multiplicatively? I assume it's additively, which means if you had 150% increase on a jewel modifier, then this would make it 200% increased.
Let's see. Warbringer was also one I was considering because minions have like no HP at all. I think spamming taunts and jade skin or encased jade is actually viable. So let's see what it's like. Break armor equal to 10% of hit damage dealt. That's terrible. You can break armor to below 0. I don't know if that's really that good.
If you had to strictly go minions, this isn't terrible. Wait, never mind. It's equal to 10% of hit damage dealt. If you're not scaling the hit damage, it doesn't matter. So it wouldn't work. But ancestral spirits, yes. I personally would probably, if I were to go minions, it would probably be ancestral spirits, maybe encased in jade. And then just block. Those would probably end up being my choices. Or if there were some really good war cries that affected allies, I could go war cries instead. Because at the end of the day, even though I'm not scaling my damage, this is still decent explode damage.
Damage hits taken from your nearest totem's life before you. Use totems.
So like, this is really good for totems.
Value. I don't even know if that's good. 35% less block chance, can block damage from all hits while shield is not raised. Turtle charm. So this is like
PoE1's block, I assume.
Combined with tank class. Why is 20% slow so strong? Because when they make a game, they make it like beatable for people who are like really good. And then if you slow that down by 20%, it basically includes everybody. That's pretty much it. This is interesting. The block nodes are quite strong, but if you go full block, like, man, I don't know if you have enough nodes. Like, I don't think you can utilize the block stuff if you go minions and also health stack. I think it's too much point pressure. I think you can. Be, like, melee. I think that's off the table.
I think you can. If you really wanted to. I don't think it's optimal.
No accuracy penalty at a distance, skill extra projectile,
nah.
Mark.
Actually, mark is like one of the
lose all tailwind when hit.
Few reasons you would go for that, but like
you can go play Legolas if you want. I'm not doing that.
Like I said, Legolas.
Pathfinder, more flash charges gained.
Still wouldn't go for this guy.
Life flasks effect.
Oh wait,
not cute.
I didn't even realize they gave descriptions of this. Consume charges from your mana flask to trade bottle that explodes, dealing unarmed chaos attack damage in an area. Poison inflicted by this skill has more effects. Unarmed lightning damage, unarmed cold damage, unarmed fire damage, unarmed physical damage. So you choose the concoction you want. And they all take from mana flask. Nothing goes from life flask. Even the bleeding one, which I assumed would be a no-brainer to go from life.
Not removed when unreserved life is filled. So it's like Giga Regen. 5 passive skill points, 30 less movement speed, unaffected by slows. It's pretty mid. Pretty mid. Blood Mage. So this was leaked earlier, but some of the leaks seem to be wrong. So let's see. Skills gain base life equals. So if you use Blood Magic, it circumvents this. So it basically means you have to go Blood Magic. Blood Magic.
You don't have to.
It's like a little bit away though. Blood Magic is here. So you start here, and you don't have to go here.
You don't have.
It's like
what the fuck is that?
points.
Wait. There's a tree. Kind of don't want to touch that tree. I kind of don't, but I kind of do.
And you have to go here. So it's like -8 points. It's like pretty good, but it's like -8 passive points. Curses having infinite.
When did he open
good.
it?
So, Blood Magic is like a little bit away.
Oh, yeah, that's a
Having infinite
bookmark.
duration. Energy good, -8 passive points. Curses having infinite duration is quite good.
I don't know if I'll say that's quite good, depending on your build.
Body armor as extra maximum life. I think it's not good enough for like a full package. Infernalist was also leaked a few hours ago, but again, it might be wrong. So Altered Flesh is this one here, so you have to get that in order to get 2, 3, 4. And 2, 3, 4 are pretty
will
interesting.
is
So
non-negotiable.
You gain like a huge bonus. So Bidat's Will is 1 maximum spirit per 25 max life. This looks really crazy, but I think it's a little bit bait. I'll explain. So the other one,
I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is, well, there are two reasons actually. Firstly, we actually don't know many sources of flat spirits. And so far, the only sources I'm aware of are like the Scepter, which gives 100, right? Now your Scepter would have its own local increased spirit node or modifier, which could take that up to 200 from what my understanding. I think 100% increase is like T1, I would assume, but I could be wrong. It could be more than that. But I'm just going to go with 200 flat from the Scepter. Now you take that 200 flat, you get increased spirit on the tree, yada yada yada. Let's say you're able to get up to 500. I don't know if this is realistic, but 500 from 200 flat. Let's even say 250 flat, because I know there's like there's all these things you can do with soul cores and whatnot that can give you more spirit. So let's say we get 250 flat. If you can even get 100 flat spirits, you essentially increase your spirit pool by 33%. Because this doesn't say of reserved max life or per 25 reserved max life or unreserved. It's just max life. So it's taking into account your entire life pool, and it's giving you 1 spirit for every 25. So I do think this is a decently good node, assuming our understanding of where all the flat spirit is coming from is actually accurate, and it's just mostly the Scepters. If there are like many sources and we can get up to like 500 flat spirits, then that's a different case entirely. But I assume right now we don't have too many sources of flat spirits, and what's more, we probably get more sources of increased spirit than flat spirit. That's my expectation for this situation, but we won't know that unless we see the tree and play the game.
Max life from max mana from life, and then max energy shield from life. I think getting all these 3 and playing like a low life build is pretty legit. I think this is pretty legit. But this is like the soft minion ascendancy, and I just want to explain why I think it's not. So the demon form stuff is okay, but not so much for minions. While on high infernal flame, you and your allies gain 20% of damage as fire damage.
Meh.
That's pretty decent.
Meh,
Okay,
unless
so
you're going fire.
Loyal Hellhound grants
Same with
skill
ignites.
summon Infernal Hellhound, 20% of damage from hits taken from your Hellhound life before you. So in the game, you're going to use a Scepter with like plus spirit. Your base spirit is 180. You're going to have about 350 to 300.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the
spirit.
180.
And this is pretty good, but this is a permanent minion, and this will count as a skill permanent minions, they all reserve spirit. So you're gonna gain some spirit here, but you're gonna lose some of it, possibly a lot of it here, because the minions that I've seen are absolute joke tier survivability.
But
So
comments say it doesn't,
have...
and I'm inclined to believe it doesn't. So because you're spending that ascendancy points according to, oh no, if I remember correctly, I got a message. So yeah, it doesn't use spirit, so you don't lose any spirit from this.
Damage reduction, you may need to put some supports on this, so it may cost quite a lot of spirit. So yeah, just keep that in mind. You will have to invest in this. This will cost spirit. We don't know for sure if Infernal reserves spirit. It's going to reserve spirit. Every single minion that is permanent reserves spirit.
It doesn't.
Only minions with durations do not reserve spirit. So
even then, some minions with duration reserve spirits, like
and then you gain
SRS.
DR, so you still lose a little bit, but it's okay. Let's just say that that's a break even, right? So you gain a bunch of spirit. If I knew how much life you could have on an endgame character and that number was really large, I would maybe be convinced that this is actually crazy and you have to play this with minions. It's possible, but my understanding and from what we've seen on character sheets from the people that tested it, the amount of strength on your character actually has been contributing more to your total life than the life rolls on your entire gear. So just keep that in mind. You basically have to go strength if you want a lot of life. And I don't know how much strength you would go if you went this combination. So you have to get Altered Flesh, Cold as Fire, Lightning as Fire, Physical as Chaos. Physical as Chaos is the only good one, but if you don't have good Chaos Resist, it's bad. Bidut's Will, 5,000 life. I don't know if you get 5,000 life. 5,000 life is what characters might have in PoE 1, but everything is scaled back in PoE 2. I don't know what that number is, but I don't think it's 5,000. I think it's probably closer to 2,500, maybe 3,000. So you get like 100 spirit from this, but then you have to use some of it for this. So basically the way I see it is you get something that unless you build into it is break even, and this with the Hellhound is close to break even, and that's the entire ascendancy. So it's kind of like just breaking even, or like barely.
Yeah,
if the dog deals huge damage, sure. If the dog deals huge damage, if you're able to life stack like crazy, obviously, but I doubt it. Zombie didn't seem to reserve spirit. I think zombies have a duration, but
zombies have a 20-second base duration.
See, I'm not impressed by this. Like, I think Chrono, it looks a little bit better. I think Titan is certainly better. Like 50 more armor and then 50 effective small passive skills. This means you're going to have way more life. You're probably going to get more damage from the minion nodes. And you have 15 more life.
One thing that this also doesn't say
I think zombies have a duration.
Is that these nodes, and I think this one, I could be wrong about this one, but these nodes all give increased max life, which is a big stat in PoE 2.
But
you just have more life because of it.
But you might actually deal more damage. Zombies have a duration, yeah. Okay, Mercenary, Witch Hunter. So I think Witch Hunter is actually pretty good for minions. This was leaked earlier. You can get Calling Strike and Decimating Strike, which averages out to like 30% more damage approximately. And the other stuff is pretty garbage, but like just 30% more damage is good enough for any build. 20 passive skill points become...
I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is for this one, it's hits against full life enemies. So unless you're willing to put up with a lot of jank, when it comes to making sure your minions don't attack before you hit the full life enemy to then trigger the chance to... Okay, so it's no longer a chance, it's just it removes life. Anyways, let's say it looks like it's guaranteed to remove life, so you have to do like, you know, jank. You have to keep your minions away from the boss while you hit them the first time, so you can apply this to then apply Calling Strike when you're done. That just sounds like
weapon set skill
pain.
points. I think this is for weapon swapping. I don't think this is plus 20. But I think it's like good enough for almost any build.
General Legionnaire is solid.
And let me see. Okay, so the quality of skills got actually toned down, which tells me that this thing is crazy. This was 12% in their reveal. They nerfed this from the reveal.
I'm also not sure how I feel about +1, but since this is all skills, I assume it's just big. Like I know everything else is like, oh, minion skills, this skill, that skills, and I know you are in theory only going to get like minion like levels of one particular skill type. So having one to all is just nice. But I guess it depends on how much each skill scales with levels. I assume it's a big scaler, but like, do curses care much about the levels? Do let's say your offering, how much does it increase per level? Does everything scale really well with level? If so, then yeah, that's a cracked node. But if some things don't scale as well with level, but other things really do, it's like, okay.
So that tells me that is really, really strong. And you get +1 all skills, and minion gems in PoE 2, their spirit cost goes down with the higher level gem that they have. So what that means is
bigger army.
This is spirit. I have no idea how much. Yeah, like this. Let's not pretend like we know how much, but this is some spirit in addition to damage and survivability. It's something. I don't know how much it is, but that's a mechanic in PoE 2.
And then this one is also going to be really nice.
30% more attribute requirement.
And this one is
terrible.
big for
Jesus.
Spectre's build. Spectre builds.
Additional skill slots is 4, and you have to get that to get 5 and 6. 5 is you can use 2 copies of the same support gem in different skills, and 6 is the plus
5 is only decent if you really want like
I think the other ones are really
GMP
good.
and whatnot.
Attribute requirements of gems can be satisfied by your highest attribute. This means that you can strength stack.
Stack intelligence
so
that you get ES.
Scepter requires about 150 int, but it means that you can put every single
stack into a lot to get a lot of ES to then, you know, be tanky in that regard, or you can go life and strength stack. Full send strength, have big life pool, you know. Up to you.
Every single other, because remember in the passive tree, the attribute nodes, you can choose what they give you. So you would basically satisfy the requirements of your scepter, which is int, and then you would go 100% into strength after that. So like for example, I have no idea, I'm making these numbers up, but your character would look like 400 strength, 0 dexterity, and like 150 int on
0
on
dexterity is not possible.
Like
you need green gems.
And that would not be possible if you're playing like Infernalist.
Wait, what? But like with this class, yes, you don't need dex. You have 0 dexterity and 0 int, just a full sense strength.
And like 150 int on the nose.
No, doesn't this say? Yeah, you just have 400 strength and you don't care about the int. You don't. I don't. Okay, no, this is of gems, not of weapons. Oh, well, this is worse than I thought it was. If it's just of gems. Kind of a bit of a letdown, to be honest. Slightly. It's still strong. Still very strong.
Like that would be your attribute breakdown. And that would not be possible if you're playing like Infernalist, because you use a lot of blue gems. So your Infernalist will be like
you would want to double the bonuses as well.
150 strength to barely use armor, right? And that difference, we've learned that strength is a major contributor to your total life. So it basically means that you're going to have way more life playing this build, playing this Ascendancy, way more. And then inherent bonuses from int, strength, dexterity are doubled. So like way, way more. So basically, Gemling, I think, is probably going to be the choice for minions. You're going to have way more life. You're going to have some bonuses to spirit, and some bonuses to defense and offense. We don't really know how much, because we don't know the quality of any gem. We don't know the spirit scaling.
We actually do know the quality of some gems, but not minions.
But these mechanics are just
random gems.
Strong. And also, none of this is any, like, nothing is based on attacks, nothing is based on spells, nothing is based on anything.
Just skills.
If minions suck, you just go and play the meta build, and it's going to be strong, because these are just strong. Oh, you think 3 might apply to spirit costs?
No, it
30%
doesn't.
less cost of skills.
No, it
gems have
doesn't.
30% more attribute requirements. Interesting. Okay, so you'd go 1, 2, 3, and then not 8. Nah, you'd have to give up the 1 level of all skills. I don't know if that's worth it.
This this doesn't touch spirits. It's been confirmed. This is just mana cost, life cost, you know, actual cost, not reservation efficient, not reservation.
I don't know if that's worth it. But yeah, if this applies to auras,
basically.
If this applies to auras, the Gemling can have more minions than any ascendancy. If it applies to auras. Which is also interesting. Long travel to minion nodes? Yeah, so not really. So this node here, regenerate 1% life per second. Allies in your presence regenerate 2% of your maximum life per second. This is the best survivability node for minions. So you can't play minions when you start a mercenary. That's true. But eventually when you get over to the minion nodes, it's like if you play a witch, you still have to go here. Right? So and this node is insane. 20% reduced crit damage taken, 20 armor, 20 evasion, 5 strength, 5. It's just absurd node. This one is 1.5 life regen, and life regen from flasks. Crazy. Even this one's pretty good.
I kind of don't want to see the tree, my guy.
It's not really different. It's very similar overall points. Okay, let me see the monk ones. I actually have not seen the monk ones.
I kind of really don't want to see the skill tree.
1 spirit for every 6 energy on equipped body armor. So this is like the trickster.
This is pretty decent. Not for minions, because I think, well, it depends. If we can get a stupid amount of evasion energy shield from your body armor to where it's just hard out classes, let's say scepters plus soul cores, then sure. But otherwise, and I don't see it getting that crazy. Like, it will get high. It's just 1 spirit for 6. Let's say you got 600. If you're able to get 600 energy shield and 1500 evasion rating, that would give you a 100, 200 spirits. That's a lot of ES evasion rating for 200 spirits. Whereas with the scepter, to get to 200 spirits, you just need a scepter and 100% increased spirits. Now, of course, that's probably a T1 node, and that might not be the easiest affix to get, but that would be what you need for the exact equivalent. Plus, you still have soul cores, which would then just be placed right on the scepter to give you even more spirits. So now you're getting, like, I think scepters are one-handed, so they get 1. I could be wrong with it. I think they get 1 socket, in which case you get 15 there. Maybe you get 1 on your main hand or offhand, as the case may be, and that would give you potentially 30 extra flat. I don't know if the soul cores interact with the increased spirit. I doubt they do. I think it's just independent. But in any case, you're looking at like 230, 215, 230 spirits from just the scepter. Which, again, if you can get a better chest piece than what I just described, 600 or 1500, then this is worth it. If not, then it's not.
Sure.
This node is insane, by the way. This node is crazy. Evasion rating given PDR, which means the weakest point of going an evasion build just gets solved by this one node. Now it has the less evasion rating, so you wouldn't dodge as much. But that would mean you just literally go evasion rating, and you just go evasion rating, and you're solving mitigation and avoidance with the same stats. Like, basically, you can just full send evasion rating way more than you could have before, and you still get like a decent chunk of evasion, even with the 40% less.
Evasion rating also grants physical.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this node has to get, or if this node gets nerfed at some point.
Physical damage reduction. Holy crap!
It also depends on how much PDR too. But PDR, This isn't even working like armor, because the way armor works is the bigger they hit, the less effective armor is against it. So the same armor would prevent a lower percent if a hit is bigger than a second hit. This doesn't even say that. It just says PDR, right? It just means, so it's probably not even that. It's probably just flat PDR. Maybe every 1,000 evasion has 2% PDR, or however much you want to do. Like, it is going to be very strong. It might even be more effective for physical damage than for the monk to scale armor, which is crazy.
It's pretty cool. Is that the dumbed down trait? No, it's just a collection of the videos. Like a lot of the nodes are missing. But most of the notables, or maybe all of the notables, are on the tree because they've been revealed. So I don't know what this is. Look, this is going to be life regeneration. Okay, I don't know that, but those are going to be life regeneration. Just right, like that's how they.
One side is going to be life regen. One side is going to be analyzing your presence regen. This is going to be a smaller hybrid of the two, and this is going to be a notable, which is bigger hybrid of the two.
That's how it works. So you can make some of those assumptions. Meditate can like double your ES, but it's very short-lived, so it's kind of weird. Meta skills gain 35% more energy.
This is the cast on.
This has nothing to do
with
the
trigger. Like, that's the trigger ascendancy. I don't think so. I think this can actually work. The invoker can actually work with minions. And hear me out. No, it's not the best. But if you can get more spirits here than you can get from your scepter, combined with this guy, meaning you can just scale evasion through the roof if you so choose, combined with this guy, if you were going for a more SRS-esque build where you're triggering the fire skill, which then spawns the SRS, and then you have like cast on minion death, fireball, and then SRS is a support of that. You can then have an auto minion playstyle or whatever else, you know. You can have something along those lines, and that's already just what, 1, 2, 3, and then you just stick meditates or something. I don't know.
Gain 35% more energy. This looks pretty strong, but it's not. This has nothing to do with minions. Like absolutely nothing to do with minions. And
then like I said with Chayola, if we can use darkness for minion reservation, then it could be decent, but it all depends on if they let it.
Instant mana leech. Oh, this is a fun one. So chaos resistance is doubled. So the way that it works,
if it's a negative, it's really bad.
Your total after the penalty from difficulty, and then it doubles it. So if your chaos resist is negative, because they said during the campaign they don't expect you to cap your resists. They said that. Okay, so if you have like negative 20 chaos resist and you get this,
you will fuck yourself up.
40. It'll double. I mean, it will double. It won't do anything else. but yeah, this is only good if you have a lot of chaos resist, because it's not like you get, so the resist cap is 75. It's not like you're gonna get like 40 resist and then double it at 80. If you get 40 resist, it's gonna be like minus 60. So if you have 40, it's minus 20. So you have to get it to a positive value of about 40 to then double it. And a positive value about 40 is going to be like having 100 chaos resist, which is probably going to be very hard to get. Damage is the chaos.
How much would you have to, like, because the moment you have that doubling, let's say you have 60, it's minus 60 base after act 6. You have 60% chaos res, so that's 0. You get 10%, so you have 70, and then you double it. That gives you 20. That would make sense. So you have to get the 60 and then the 40, so 100. Yeah, basically, you would have to get like 100 chaos res.
Reduce darkness reservation duration. What does that even mean? You cannot recharge energy shield. Mana leech effect also recover energy shield.
And darkness is right there.
Yeah, some very wild passives, but again, it has nothing to do with minions. So for minions, we basically have Infernalist, which is like slightly above break even, probably. I think Chronomancer is actually good.
Nah, I think he's sleeping on Infernalist. Like, I didn't think I would say that because it's a de facto minion class, but like Infernalist realistically is doing a lot for minions. Now, I would rather have had a better Fort Ascendancy for minions when you're not going fire, because as it stands, you kind of are pigeonholed into going two of the Bedat Ascendancies if you're not going fire, because you have to go Spirits, you have to go Demon Dog, or you don't have to go Demon Dog. But if you want any of the positive anything else that relates to minions is going to be fire related. You're either gaining 20% of fire of damage as fire when you're on high Infernal Flame, or when you are not on low flame, you and your minions contribute to ignite chance and magnitude, something like that. And those all require the Infernal Flame Ascendancy. So minimum, if you want a minion bonus from the Ascendancy, it has to be fire, and it has to be 4 points minimum. So that means if you go to those 4 points and you go Bedat's Will, which is the spirit one, you can't get Demon Dog even. So if you do decide to get Demon Dog and you do decide to get Bedat's Will, you only have 1 point left. Unless you just want Infernal Flame, so you don't care about mana. But like, where's the fun in that? You don't get any offensive boost, no defensive boost, nothing. So you're kind of pigeonholed into going a second Bedat stat, which is like reserve life for ES or reserve life for mana. And I mean, reserve life for mana is not bad, especially when you pair this with Mind Over Matter. But I would have rather had something that would have given a more, I don't say it's generic minion buff, or like something that could make more non-fire minion skills shine.
You know what? I think Chronomancer is better than Infernalist. Because then
I disagree
don't
with
have
that
to
one.
get life regen nodes as much. I can just get a few of the recoup nodes, which are better than life regen nodes. So I go recoup, and then they're slowed always. That's really good. This is also an ascendancy that you can play with anything also, which is like like, let's say minions are absolute garbage tier, right? Like let's pretend that they are. They might be.
Why do I have? Okay.
You can play any build you want with this toolkit. The Infernalist can't do that. So it's a pretty safe pick. And Titan, same thing. The problem is the small passive skills are literally the ones that we don't know what they do. Funny enough, we actually have very little information on that. 15 armor, 0.4 life regen.
Can we not look at that?
The chest doesn't give you anything. But 5 is just so good. You'd go 1, 4, 5, and 8 for 15 more life. Yeah, it looks like Titan is going to be extremely good at melee, but then if you don't want to play melee at all, you're literally not penalized for it. You have 4 extremely good points.
I'm looking forward to trying my
all these 3 classes
Warbringer totem build eventually. It's going to be a melee totem build, because I know how disappointed I was in PoE1 when I found out there was no melee totems.
For minions than Infernalist, and all these 3 classes are very generic boosts. Like you can, just not play minions if minions suck. I'm kind of leaning Gemling Legionnaire. If less cost of skills works for minion reservations,
it doesn't.
It will actually be the strongest summoner.
It doesn't work.
Like 1, 2, 3. There's no way Infernalist matches this. Even if you don't go full attributes.
It's ironic too, because depending on how much life you get, Infernalist does match it. Because all you need is 2500 life to get 100 spirits from your ascendancy, just straight up. 2500 life. If you have more, you're getting more spirit, but just that. And then that goes through the increased spirit network and yada yada to give you more minions. Then not only that, you have the demon dog, which is a free dog, by the way. It does not, by the way, look at this beautiful number right here. One. I'm getting distracted. The demon dog does not cost spirits, so it's just a free minion, so to say. It does cost us NSC points, but it's a free minion in that regard. Then what else? You just get free physical conversion, and not only just physical conversion, because now you don't have to worry about 20% of physical, because that becomes chaos. You also don't have to worry about 20% of damage from hits, period, because the demon dog takes that damage away from you. So it's like you're only working with 80% of fizz damage, and keep in mind, fizz damage in PoE 1 is the one damage type that will most likely kill you. You've taken 20% from the 100 from the hits, right? So now you're only taking 80% of the physical damage that you should have taken. Then out of this 80% physical damage, 20% is going to come out of your demon dog's life instead of you. So you're now contesting only 60% of the initial damage that was supposed to be dealt to you. Now, of course, you're still going to take the chaos damage, but you have res there to actually mitigate that versus armor. So already, like, Infernalist is doing quite a bit. I like the Infernalist. I don't know why we need to bother with like the lightning to fire and cold to fire. Like, if that allows you to fully convert those elements to fire, then sure, because then we can leave resistances of that element. But I don't see that being the case unless we still have access to like maybe stuff like Watcher's Eyes and Watcher Eye mods. But I don't see that being the case. So we'll have to see. But I doubt they'll give us the support to convert all the lightning damage we take to fire, or all the, I doubt we're gonna see that
stack if this works with spirit reservations.
But yeah, Gemini Legionnaire is very solid.
Like it could.
You just wouldn't take this node. You would take. They're actually pretty solid nodes here. If I had to recommend 4 nodes you would take, then this is a no-brainer. These 2 are no-brainers. This is, depending on the build, you might want to get this. Like on a Spectre build, you would want to get this. But otherwise, you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4. Those would be your nodes. And then if you were really boosting one attribute like strength, then you could potentially use that to get really nice max res. If you were doing like, elemental damage conversion or just general damage conversion or whatever, then you would have a reason to just go 1. But by the end of the game, when you have 12/6 links, odds are this would be giving you a whole lot of like max res. Because even if you had, let's say, even across the board of every single gem type, 12, there are 5 support gems on each gem, and that's 12, so that's 60 gems. 60, and this is every 4, gives you a max res. You'd be getting 15 max res across the 3 elements if they were even. Now, if they are not, which they probably wouldn't be, then one would probably have like 8% to 10% res, while the others have like 3 or something like that. Probably skewed like that, but that is still a decent chunk of max res.
Right? Seems like it could. Jack of all trades, master
like this is still a decent one. Especially since it's going to be paired with this guy, so you actually have more than I just said. You'd have 15 more gems, support gems to work with, which would in turn give you almost 4 extra max res. Probably going to be 3 because it doesn't quite get to 4. Well, let's just say 3 extra max res to work with, which would give you 18 max res, which would then be 6 on each resistance if you evenly split it up, which would be a lot of setup. But if you got it right and max res is 75, you just be starting off with 81% max res, which is a very strong place to be starting off without any other modifiers.
The Legionnaire and the Chronomancer have basically no affiliation to a build. Like literally nothing. Oh, that's not true. The Chrono has the more cast speed. That's the only node, right? Everything else has no affiliation. So one node has a spec affiliation, and Titan is like half the nodes.
Cooldown is spec affiliation because it incentivizes you to build a high cooldown, high damage effectiveness build, and just take advantage of the fact that you don't always have that cooldown to blow screens
like
up.
Melee, but there are 4 extremely good nodes that are also generic. Yeah. I'll probably think it over, but I'm definitely leaning Gemling Legion.
We get the gist. Good video. Now we need to get on to the rest of what we plan to do today, which is to fully watch the Envoy and the Mavens lore series on this, and from there, what else do we need to see? We need to see this guy. We need to see the Conquerors of the other Atlas stories. Basically, I want to see what's like this is backstory behind Sirius, and I think that's Siege of the Atlas. So let's watch.
This is an expansion that introduces a second Eldritch being, the Maven, to the Atlas.
One of the most interestingly designed bosses in PoE1, in my opinion. You know, I just now realized this is the key to her fights. All her splinters make this item, the thing that's on her head. What is small and nice detail?
Only Eldritch beings still out there, and she won't be the last we encounter.
Can I click this?
Maven has come to witness our struggle, specifically our fights with other beings in the Atlas. She pits us against others like toys, creating increasingly deadly scenarios with her chosen combination.
How do you spell it again, Ritz?
She is the Andy to our
Splinter
Lightyear. But why has she come now?
Maven's
envoy that comes with
Ritz.
her?
No.
And what will the consequences be of her final request? A battle between us and her. First, let's quickly go over the events that led up to the Maven and the Envoy's appearance in our Atlas. The endgame lore is a continuously building story, and it began with Xana's father, Waldo Caesarius, who became the Shaper.
Bruh. So the reason it didn't show up is because of the. Because there's a the. It didn't show up. Here I was making I was judging myself. But anyways, Maven's Ritz. This isn't exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for these crescent splinters. These. This is what I'm talking about. The splinters. That is what was behind her head.
Originally, Shaper was the big
Never noticed it before.
A man who had gone mad with the powers bestowed upon him from the Atlas, who was creating and reshaping worlds without care. He had lost memory of his daughter Xana, who had been orphaned as a child and spent her whole life searching for him. The next expansion revealed that the Shaper, Xana's father, was in the Atlas to fight a malicious eldritch being called the Elder. We learned that the Elder had created the center of the Atlas, a pocket dimension Shaper dubbed the Dreamlands, the place from which all of its hunting grounds, the maps, were formed. The Elder is a being that served a greater force, called the Decay, and was trying to spread this rot while feasting on the memories and imaginations of all its victims.
So the Elder works for something. Okay.
Particularly children. The Shaper was manipulating the Atlas not out of madness, but as an attempt to distract the Elder from ever reaching Wraeclast. By creating endless worlds, the Elder could be directed like a rat in a maze, but not stopped. The Elder had been feeding on Shaper's memories, which is why he didn't remember his daughter Xana. But the Shaper left information for Xana to find and utilize a tool he had created called the Cosmic Arcana. Since the Elder could not be killed outright and distracting him only bought time, Waldo, the Shaper, created something that could exile the Elder into the abstract.
Oh look, a Watcher's Eye.
During this expansion, we stopped the Elder. In the next expansion, it wasn't us who helped Xana seal the Elder in the Cosmic Arcana. It was the Conquerors, originally named the Elder Slayers, a team of 5 highly skilled warriors.
Hey, why did they just come take our credit though? But we did it, not the what you call them? Those guys.
Named the Elder Slayers.
We don't care about the other Slayers.
5 highly skilled warriors that assisted Xana in stopping the Elder. However, when they fought Elder, Sirius had to push the Elder into the Cosmic Arcana to ensure he was trapped, and got trapped in it also. Sirius seemed to be lost in that non-reality with the Elder, and the Elder Slayers.
So Sirius is one of the Elder Slayers. Guess. Okay.
Began going mad with the power they found in the Atlas. Xana had warned them and us many times that the Atlas can drive people mad. She had seen it with her father, and she had seen it with other teams she had hired before the Elder Slayers. As Xana and the Elder Slayers tried to find Sirius after his sacrifice, they dropped out of the team one by one, choosing to pursue their own desires instead. Xana, fearing they may become threats to Oriath and Wraeclast, sealed them in the Atlas. Sirius returned and began tormenting them all. Sirius was changed by whatever he experienced in the Cosmic Arcana. He could not feel anything but his rage at being abandoned. With the Elder Slayers now mad conquerors, and Sirius an empowered threat, possibly having absorbed the Elder's powers, we find them all and attempt to defeat them. Sirius manages to break out of the Atlas and attack Oriath, destroying it to spite Xana and everyone else who left him.
Oh, so that's basically the gist of Sirius. Okay, cool.
With both Oriath and Sirius gone, we end up on the Karui shores. But it isn't just Sirius who has gone. It is also the Elder, an eldritch being, supposedly eternal, unable to be destroyed, has disappeared. And while we may rejoice in his disappearance, the stars, full of unknown beings of equal power, turn their gaze upon the place where an unending being has vanished. This event, the destruction of the Elder, is known amongst the vast abyss of the cosmos as the Silence. And this silence, this lack of the eternal Elder, is of great intrigue to those beings. What force could cause such an impossible event? And here is where Echoes of the Atlas begins. An unknown number of eternal entities has felt the deafening silence coming from where the Elder once feasted and spread its decay.
This is a case of the lesser of all evils, eh? Because, like, I mean, the elder sucked, obviously, but like his absence is being felt. like you solve one problem and you open yourself up to like 5 different new ones. Like what? Very interesting. I've been catching up on learning lore too before Friday. Yeah, PoE lore is very intriguing. Like they don't mince their words. Like they have very, very thought-provoking concepts like this. For example, the Elder and the Echoes of the Atlas story. Because at this point they've defeated the Elder. You know, he's nowhere to be found. He got trapped in the previous stories and whatnot. The Shaper was also trapped with him, and apparently Sirius alongside him. But in any case, now that he's gone, there were apparently entities that were aware of his presence and are very aware of his absence, and are like, okay. Like, I love that concept.
The Atlas, once the Elder's domain, is now an intriguing anomaly, a beacon to those eldritch beings. In one of our maps, the Envoy appears, a messenger from a place of great darkness and great distance, in a form most pleasing to those who must listen. Those great and unreachable have heard the silence echoing from that which once hunted here, and they have turned their gaze to this place. Rejoice, nomad, for she approaches, and she seeks to witness your struggle.
Mm-hmm.
The Maven appears at the boss of that map, giving it strength and vitality boons to make our fight harder.
Can I just say, for the last gauntlet for Settlers of Kalgur, I hated hearing vitality boons so much, because the very first boss, basically the beach boss, like you just log into the game, you're level 1. the first boss of that zone was Maven influenced. So then you have this Maven juicing up the very first boss when you had no say in what skill you have, no say on equipment, and this is a hardcore environment. So let's just say I fought that boss a lot.
We defeat the boss, we receive the Maven's Beacon, an orb we can place in our atlas that will allow the
Yeah, it was quite the gauntlet, because like I remember I didn't have any issues beating the boss on certain classes. Like on the Ranger was very easy, on the Witch was decently easy. But you see, when you have to deal with a Maven influenced Hillock, and what you have to play with is a melee class, and not just any melee class, a Marauder, because that was what I initially wanted to play. I just left it. I was like, nah, G, this is too much for me. You don't have access to any gear in town. You don't have access to anything. It's just the things that you drop on that beach are what you're gonna use. And the Marauder starting skill is just bad. It's a melee skill. It's like an empowered auto attack, and auto attacks are just trash in PoE1. So you can imagine it's not like you have 3 support gems or anything. It's just the 2. And then your weapon is like just a one-handed club. Its reach isn't even the best. So it's like you're just screwed in many different ways when you try to go Marauder. So like I saw that, I'm like, yo, G, nah, this isn't for me, and I just rolled a Witch. I literally just went the Witch. I'm like, okay, I'll just go a Witch instead. I don't have to deal with that. But yeah, it was quite the challenge getting through the beach on the Marauder.
Maven to find us in a map, mess with the boss, and add it to her collection. Once we've gathered a certain number of bosses, we must fight all of them at once in her arena called the Maven's Crucible. Crucible meaning a place of great trial and heat that mixes together different substances.
Yeah, I really like the Witch. It's my most played class in PoE1. Like, if I have 30 characters all through currently on my PoE account, I would say I have like 8-ish of other classes, and the remaining 22 are witches. And I'm not even exaggerating.
Create something new. These fights become harder and harder with more and tougher bosses, and eventually the Maven wants to fight us herself. A quick note, the Elder's arena is called the absence of value and meaning, while the Maven's is the absence of mercy and empathy. To take a step back, the Envoy and Maven's appearance in our maps is interesting because Xana tells us that there are 2 sources of entities within the Atlas, and I'm certain no one has entered from this side. Somehow they have entered from the other side, which Xana theorizes is some unknown parallel realm. It seems this door is newly opened.
So they entered from the side that we trapped the Elder in? Or what?
As the Envoy tells us that after the silence of the Elder's disappearance, there was a first lurching movement of boundaries drawn long before the dawn. The Maven has arrived as the first claimant on this source of the silence. She is not the Elder, she does not serve the decay, but she is Eldritch. She serves only her own amusement, passing eternity with an endless string of meaningless struggles. She is not the Elder, but you are right to fear her. So the Maven is an Eldritch being like the Elder, but doesn't serve the decay. She is powerful, but she is also apparently a toddler, a nymph. She is a child seeking entertainment, drawn in by the shiniest beacon of interest in the cosmos, this great silence.
Isn't it funny that this toddler is probably thousands and thousands of years old? Like, unironically.
The Envoy gives us bits and pieces of the story of the Maven, the Envoy, and others as we wander through the maps. Because
at the end of the day, what attracted the child is not a shiny toy, but rather the absence of the Elder, right? So even in this young age, that like she's still smart enough to understand that. Which makes me think, honestly, it makes me wonder who's stronger between the Maven and the Elder. I'm inclined to say it's possibly the Maven, but who knows? Who knows?
Most of the lines are verbose and convoluted, just like me. but I will try to put together the pieces of this looming eldritch puzzle. The Maven was created by her progenitor, who we will discuss later. I believe the envoy was there to witness her birth, when he says, the eternal stillness was replaced by a billowing storm of movement, eyes and teeth reflecting the smallest of lights like furious and starving constellations. As she grew, they, possibly her parents, sought novelties from far and wide at her insistence, but these toys were never satisfying her curiosity, her lust for conflict and contest. The Maven grew bored of the realm she was given and seeks new conflict. That's why she has traveled to the Atlas and why she demands that we fight. As the Maven grew, she began to learn. There was a lesson hidden in everything that moved and everything that did not. What separated the two? A life, she determined, was the difference. But she moved and would never not. Was she alive? Now the Maven seeks to understand the difference between mortal life and her own eternal existence. I believe that when she tells us she did not know we were like her after we defeat her in battle, that she realizes we have a power that rivals her own. She had never felt any challenge to her own safety and ability before. I don't think we can assume this means we're eldritch or a god or eternal. Maybe we're on the way to godhood. But it certainly means we have power. A power that makes us closer to her.
So that's an interesting question, because does that mean that if we, from the Maven's point of view, if we weren't strong enough to beat her, then we are not strong and therefore we are inanimate objects, so to say? Like, is that her viewpoint? Because she's like, I didn't realize you were like me. So I mean, again, if this is all just, okay, you're strong, you're like, you know, does that mean before she saw us as just, I mean, she sees us as a toy, that's for sure, but like, does she see us as like a living toy who experiences pain and all these things? Or is it just, are we the same as a tree for her amusement?
Equal than other forms of life she's played with. Kirak foreshadows her realization
exactly like that.
Have power. A power that makes us closer to her equal than other forms of life she's played with. Kirak foreshadows her realization.
So that means, I mean, of course, she didn't rate us before. That's what it means. She's played with many different life forms, but we are the closest to being okay.
When he says, maybe one day she will recognize you as a peer, and then perhaps we can ask her to give Baron back to us. Kirak believes that the Maven is the cause of Baron's and the others' continuous resurrection in the Atlas. Just like map bosses, she is using them as a toy to fight us for her amusement. But before the Maven arrived in the Atlas, the envoy implies she was trapped. She tried to flee, to leave the island prison of her making, but the prison walls towered so far above, lined with silent sentries armed with sharp spears that could pierce her shadow. What kind of prison is this? And of her own making? Perhaps it's more of a crib, a protection put around her as she grew by her progenitor. So of her making would mean of her birth, rather than of her creation or design.
Which
when
makes
the elder
sense.
disappeared and the great silence began, the walls still towered, but now folded and frayed to her touch. She fled, and in doing so dragged countless in her wake. He followed her, though he did not want to. He saw a moment when he could escape, but he did not. His form was stuck with her, even if his mind wasn't. The envoy later tells us that they are of one flesh, but two minds, two bodies. We are kin, both born of the tangled anarchy of the void, but we share not the same creator. She is my ward, and she is my prison. I am her protector, and I am her servant. The envoy is not her protector by will. He is forced by her parents or creators to watch her. But even then, they're not created by the same entity. Who created the envoy? So now let's dive into the envoy's story or what we can put together from it. The actual origins of the Envoy were the most difficult parts of this story to try to decipher. Honestly, this is mostly theory, so if you have any different ideas or evidence, please comment below and let me know. Oriath.net is a great resource for in-game dialogue and was super helpful with gathering the Envoy's lines from maps. I believe the Envoy is from another world, and was possibly a leader there. He says that he came upon a bastion of flesh that towered above, smothering the stars, and those who followed in my footsteps did not halt. I was crushed and swallowed whole, urged unerringly by those I led. It sounds like the Envoy had followers, but now he is a servant to at least the Maven's progenitor, and possibly another figure called the Lightkeeper, who I'll discuss more later. He finishes this part with, "I was welcomed into his embrace," and the Envoy only uses he, him, or his when talking about this Lightkeeper. I believe the Envoy led people, encountered this Lightkeeper, and was taken as the Lightkeeper's servant as his
Anyone else feeling the shakes? You mean as we
own
wait
people.
for this countdown to finish? I mean, we go 1 day, 17 hours to go. Can't be shaking yet. You gotta hold yourself. It's just 2 sleeps away. Just 2. 2. You know, just tonight and tomorrow night, and we got it.
Whatever the Envoy did, he was punished for it by those he now serves, and he refers to this punishment multiple times. I think they made him eternal, as he says, "This was their gift to me, their eternal servant, to walk among the countless silent screaming dead and witness." The punishment of
I'm just now realizing that even in PoE 1, because it goes through the flame wall, it actually takes part of the, because I don't use an MTX for my flame wall, so I've never seen it, but it actually takes some of the fire, I guess. You actually do see it. And this is interesting. I have never noticed this.
This was their gift to me, their eternal servant.
But I guess it's the difference between using MTXs and not. Let's see. Oh. So we can now download the installer? Okay, I'm gonna leave this on the side. I mean, I don't think we're gonna be able to download the big game yet, right? This is a smaller download. Or can we not even click it until tomorrow? Because I know preload starts tomorrow at 5, so that's like 2 hours in the past of today. So like 2 hours before now tomorrow. Give or take. Like actually 2 hours 30 minutes.
The countless silent screaming dead and witness. The punishment of the Envoy for his past actions was to serve
Oh, this doesn't want to refresh, so let's do that manually. Okay, YouTube chat refreshed. I hate having to work another day and then I have after hours work this weekend. Oh, that sucks. Fingers crossed, because this weekend, I can't imagine having to work this weekend and all I see when I look online is, oh my god, PoE 2 this, PoE 2 that, everybody's playing it, and then I'm working like that feeling. No, you can't. I'm just that down bad. I looked up the link for the part of the site that isn't up. Oh wait, so you can't naturally link to this yet? Oh yeah, you can't. There is no download yet. That guy is actually down bad. Ah. I guess you could technically click something here. Technically. Okay, I'm still gonna leave this open till for tomorrow. Surely another PoE1 build. I mean, you're free to send it. You're free to send PoE1. You have less than 48 hours. Be proud. You're hanging in there. We don't have much time left before we get to finally try out PoE2, the game we've literally been waiting for years.
Serve and protect the Maven. I was led into the darkness and given a torch burning with fury to guide my path to her. I was consumed by the journey and thrust into her care as a hollow shell, to protect and limit and never leave her. The word torch makes me think the Lightkeeper had some involvement in this punishment, and the envoy being consumed and turned into a hollow shell makes me think he took on some new form. The envoy is attached to the Maven, taking care of her eternally and watching as she grew. For a long time, nothing happened.
These are the crescents I was talking about. Wait a second. This is the crescent splinters, but now I'm just now realizing the thing in the center is probably the Ritz. So that's the crescent and this is the Ritz. So that's probably what we have here. So her headgear is literally the Maven Fight invitation, where this is the individual crescent, and then this is the whole thing once you put it together. Well, there you guys go. That's actually pretty fun. I mean, because of all this, like, we can barely actually see the fine details. So it could also just be a circle and not even be the Ritz. But I suspect it is.
Those I serve cast their eyes upon an endless, unchanging horizon and have never had cause to look away. Without change, time is invisible, meaningless, and insignificant to one with no beginning and no end. He watched the Maven.
The background sound for the PoE music is kind of loud now. I heard it change, but now it's kind of loud and distracted.
Pitting beings against one another for amusement until the silence began. The eyes that dwell among the stars roll and turn and focus on this place. It is the source of the silence, the beginning of the beginning, the point where that which roamed and fed ceaselessly was undone. Since the envoy is attached to the Maven, when she escaped in pursuit of this beginning, the source of the silence, he was brought with her. On his arrival to the Atlas, he has taken on a new form. Here, he kind of looks like a harbinger and a man combined. Celestial essence can be seen through a crack in his skull. He claims he has taken on the image of those who needed to hear its message, but also that he was originally woven from long-dead stars in its image. Its here is possibly the progenitor, possibly the Lightkeeper. The envoy laments, I try to remember its shape and cannot. Try to fall into my past and cannot. I am anchored by you, nomad, buried and drowned by your presence. Perhaps the confusion in the envoy's story is because of our influence, which has altered his shape, so possibly also his memories. He's stuck in this new form he has taken as the Maven's messenger to us, an image to reflect our own, and to guide us. A quick summary before we dive
This is one tanky build.
into even and to guide us.
You just ate that.
A quick summary before we dive into even more confusing elements of this story. The envoy is the Maven's ward, a caretaker enslaved by her parents or creator to make sure the Maven is unharmed. They come from an unknown realm, the void, the stars, where the Maven was growing, being entertained by conflict and conquest. The Elder's disappearance weakened the barrier between their realm and the Atlas. Intrigued, the Maven came to the Atlas to seek out new entertainment, having grown bored, and the envoy was dragged along. He must convince us to entertain her while also protecting her from any harm, lest her progenitor or any other eldritch beings be alerted to her pain and displeasure and come punish the envoy
Oh no.
and us.
Wouldn't that be something? I'm thinking is your name. Have you guys seen it? I've heard of it. I haven't actually seen it. It's one of those animes that people talk about a lot. Same as like To Your Eternity. I haven't seen that either. I've heard like people talk about it, and people who talk about it are typically very, very like, you know, passionate about it. They always sound like it's a really good, or those are really good animes, but I haven't.
The envoy, in this limbo between entertaining and protecting the Maven, allows us to fight her when she commands it. But once we've done enough damage, he intervenes. He warns us that were we to continue, it would surely call for its progenitor, and we would drag all into its gaping maw. More alarming.
Yeah, I don't think we want to meet this progenitor. I think this is fine, you know.
He tells us to savor our remaining time, prepare for its arrival. I urge you. The Maven's progenitor, with its gaping maw, is now coming towards the Atlas. It slashes through the stars and surges towards the silence now. It is moving with purpose and direction and intent, and it fills me with awe and fear and desire. The progenitor created the Maven to test the limits of limitless power, to bear the burden of the Creator and wade through time's mire, a meaningless obstacle in the face of eternity. The weakening of the barrier between the Atlas and this other realm has opened a door for it. Where the bastion once stood unmoving and unerringly eternal, now the flesh curls and relinquishes its grip on the stone. It hurls unanchored through a vast sea of darkness. It will arrive, though I know not when or how. The Light Keeper that the envoy mentioned earlier is connected to this progenitor. We know that the envoy must take care of the Maven, so it's likely the envoy has encountered this progenitor. But the envoy seems to serve the Light Keeper. He says that duty is a blessing. We act without hesitation or thought to the murmurs of the Light Keeper. Though the path is illuminated by him, we do not see it, and do not need to see it. To look ahead is to fall to dust in the light. Her progenitor is an ambitious creator, while the Light Keeper is a wary observer of the Maven and her potential. The imagery of becoming dust in the light is also mentioned when the envoy describes being with the Maven. I tried to count the ones who followed her past the barrier, but none did, or all who did fell to dust in the light. This was the duty of one alone. The Light Keeper took the envoy to the Maven, but I don't think he's excited about the silence, like the Maven and her progenitor are. As all of the Eldritch entities have their attention drawn to the source of the silence, our Atlas, the Light Keeper can only stand and cast its glory.
Ziggity joined Maxro? Oh, congrats to him. That's big.
And watch them all become entangled by the leash of desire. To the source of the silence, our Atlas, the Light Keeper can only stand and cast its glow and watch them all become entangled by the leash of desire. So, here's my theory about the Light Keeper. The Light Keeper and the progenitor both care for the Maven. The envoy was given the task, or punishment, of protecting and limiting the Maven, not only to help the Maven, but also to stop her if needed. The Light Keeper and the Maven's progenitor are like opposite forces that respect each other. I believe that the progenitor is order and ambition, and the Light Keeper is time and entropy in the envoy's lines. Order and ambition urge progress, and time and entropy stay progress's hand. Her progenitor tests limits, and the Light Keeper, like time, limits them. The progenitor is eager to see the Atlas, as the Maven was. The envoy tells us that the progenitor's arrival is imminent and to be feared. So the progenitor is a creator, something desirous, moving with purpose and direction and intent. The Lightkeeper can only stand and cast its glow and watch them all become entangled. He tries to stay Progress's hand. I believe that these two together are those the envoy serves. Stepping back from the void and the unknown, these events have had an effect on Kirak and Xana. Xana, frankly, is pissed at us. She spent her entire life following the footsteps of her father, seeing the horrors of the Atlas and watching everyone and
And now we're just casually going like, yeah, we need more loot. We're going to go in, you know,
everything she
for all the dangers. If anything comes, we kill it. And I mean, to be fair, we have killed everything that has shown its face in there.
loved destroyed by the Elder. When we get the beacon from the Maven, Xana notes that there's an energy within it that fills me with dread. It's reminiscent of the Elder, but different, less malignant. When we use the beacon on our Atlas, she is beside herself. How do you know this isn't some kind of scrying orb designed to allow that entity to peer into our realm, or even pass into it uncontested? You're following in the footsteps of my father and Venarius when they released the Elder. And she's not wrong. That's exactly what the beacon is for, so the Maven can find us anywhere in the Atlas. The Atlas is massive. That's why we have to work diligently to find and defeat the Conquerors, wandering through many different maps to pinpoint their locations. Xana is also correct that we don't have the tools we need to seal away another creature like the Elder, or even to begin constructing anything like the Cosmic Arcana that her father, the Shaper, had created. If the Maven had ill intent, we would unquestionably be guilty of helping her.
But that's why she does it, though. Just think about it.
Now that her progenitor is coming after her, have we lit a beacon for it to find us? If the Elder's disappearance weakened the barrier to the Atlas, did we just break down the door? Xana has always questioned our sanity, but now
Still
she
sane,
questions
Exile?
our judgment and our intentions. Now, before I conclude the video, here are some random bits I couldn't quite figure out. One is the Envoy's line about the Dreamer, the only mention of this name. The Dreamer's promise was at once fulfilled, though we did not know it, but an eternity will pass before we feel his fire. The only person I can think of is the Shaper as the Dreamer. Valdo entered and left the Dreamlands by falling asleep at the map device he was working on for Venarius that eventually led to the Elder's release from its imprisonment. He also promises that he, and he alone, will end the Elder. But how could Eldritch beings hear his promise? And what would the Envoy mean by his fire? Another
Maybe in the period between when he got lost in the Atlas and, you know, Xana started researching everything to make her own map device and whatnot. Maybe in that period he made contact with these beings across the veil. Maybe they're the ones that came up with a plan to seal the Elder in the space before time and whatnot. Maybe. Could be completely wrong. Who knows?
mysterious line addresses us directly. You think you are exploring the boundaries of existence. You are an insect charting cracks of the ancient stone on which you stand, blind to the dead stone forest that encircles. It howls, nomad. It weeps and howls and cries to be witnessed. Maps have been called stones before, but what gets me is the dead stone forest surrounding. Could this instead refer to the planet, surrounded by other planets that have been wiped of life? The Envoy tells us that the Maven wants to witness us, and that eldritch beings turn their gaze here. Are the stones eldritch beings waking up? He says the veil, now pulled away, reveals the rust of eons. The emptiness drew them in. patina sloughing in crushing waves, all greedy and desperate and newly alive. The Eldritch are waking up, breaking out of the monotony of eternity, and fixating on the Atlas with desire.
Yeah, it
And
is.
if we are on an ancient stone,
And by the way, if those other planets are ancient, like are entities that are now looking at us, that's kind of scary. Because did you see how many of those things there were? I didn't think those were planets. I thought those were debris. But like, if they're entities, like living entities, that's a bit spicy. Sophie plays. What up? How you doing? How's it going? Pretty good. Enjoying some PoE 1 lore as we wait for PoE 2. We don't have much waiting from now. We just have 2 sleeps left. Just 2.
is it also dead? Or is it going to die with all this attention drawn to it? I find this to be the most ominous of the Envoy's lines.
It touches on the Dark Forest hypothesis as a solution to the Fermi paradox. It's pretty wild. What's the Fermi paradox?
So, what's coming next? We know for certain the Maven's progenitor is coming for the Atlas. It will likely be less naive and less amicable than the Maven, as the Envoy.
Well, the aliens? That is the question. I assume they're in whatever the void that Maven was before she got into the Atlas, right? Not so much time even traveling at light speed, the galaxy should be populated, but since it's pretty empty, we wonder where are all the aliens? Like, you mean like the aliens on Wraeclast, like that don't need to even interact with the Atlas to get to Wraeclast?
Envoy himself seems afraid of it. Xana is very upset with us, and as many have speculated, this might be the beginning of Xana turning on us, or at the very least abandoning us for our hasty and harmful.
Yeah, I do think Xana is tired of our shit. Like, I think she's fed up at this point. Because like she's warned us countless times, and we just keep doing whatever the fuck we want. And the Dark Forest is the idea that you don't want the aliens to know where you are, because if they do, they will come and devour your planets. Alien, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. You definitely don't want to. If you haven't been disturbed so far, you don't want to be the one shining the torch saying, I'm over here. You know, you don't be that guy. I mean, just look at the scale of the entities we've made contact with. When you look at like the Shaper, Elder, Maven, Sirius, all these entities, and you think of how, I guess, how cosmic their power is on, and like, you can't beat the Elder. He is literally a being older than time. You cannot beat him. Like, the best we could do is banish him to where he came from, basically. But we can't kill him. And same thing with, I assume, the Maven's progenitor. But now imagine if the Maven's progenitor is just one of the forces that are now aware of our presence. And literally they just come in. Because like, when you look at the Eater of Worlds and all the other entities, I don't think they have any relation to like the Maven. But now they are aware that their order is aware, and they sense those guys as the champions, right?
Decisions.
Speaking of which, that should be the next thing we watch, because I haven't seen any lore on Exarch and Eater of Worlds. I just kind of know some things from talking to other people.
Interestingly, Kirak mentions that the wound Sirius inflicts on him in our battle with Sirius is not healing, that it has a latent disintegration eating away at me about the same speed as the skin naturally grows back.
So it's just a
Could
void.
this be related to the Elder and his decay? Does this prove the Elder is not gone, but simply part of Sirius? Xana does say.
Really, it really is. There's so much that's we as the exiles still don't even understand about this universe. I mean, we have the Atlas and whatnot, but the truth of the matter is we don't even fully understand the Atlas that we are traversing. We don't fully know all the things we're doing. We don't know the implications of half the things we do. Sponsor, thank you. Are you streaming on Friday? Yes, I am. I'm going to be streaming. Because preload is a thing, I should be live like about 30 minutes before launch. Like as soon as I am able to queue, I think that's around when I'll probably end up starting my stream. So it's going to be that I'm going to be live then, and I'll probably be live for the next day, like literally 24 hours. My goal is to get to maps before I end my stream. And with Jonathan saying it's going to take new players 25 hours to complete the first 3 acts, I think I might just be getting through acts. Assuming, you know, the servers are stable enough in that time. But that's the plan.
About Cirrus that whatever happened to him in the wake of the Elder's sealing stole the very essence of his being. Perhaps the Elder's silence is not his defeat, but his evolution. The Envoy has a
no way. No way that. Wait, what?
Essence of his being. Perhaps the Elder's silence is not his defeat, but his evolution. The Envoy has a line that mentions our death.
Can you imagine if the Elder is actually evolving somewhere? How are we supposed to stop that?
I watched the nomads passing with great admiration. Its life was brief and without consequences, and its struggle fueled the growth and maturation of the wizened and eternal. He seems happy that we helped the Maven, and maybe other Eldritch beings grow and mature, but he says our life is brief. How brief? For an eternal being, maybe that doesn't mean we'll die soon, but just brief in relation to their reality. But if the progenitor is coming for us, maybe our death will be sooner than we think.
What if the progenitor actually kills us, but that is not the end of our story? And we realize there's something after death in Wraeclast. Alva probably is the last to die. Huh? Okay, so we finished this. What is next? I want to learn more about the Conquerors of the Atlas. So we're going to watch this. And hopefully this would have information about Sirius, because that's kind of who I'm very curious about right now. So if we complete this, I'll also like to see this, but I'll probably end up watching this off stream. I just love Betrayal personally, so I might end up looking at this off stream. Harbinger, I hear, is pretty interesting, but first is Conquerors of the Atlas, then maybe Siege of the Atlas. Those two seem like you know, natural things to watch.
I thought we were done, but these exiles just keep returning to another video in Noodle's complete Path of Exile lore series. This video covers the Conquerors of the Atlas expansion. Let's begin. Conquerors of the Atlas, the most recent Path of Exile expansion, continues the story of Shaper and the Elder. But now, after defeating Kitava and beginning the endgame, Xana is not waiting for us in Oriath Square. Instead, we meet a man named Kirak. Kirak is actually looking for Xana and requests our help. Kirak was a military man on deployment, who returned to Oriath after the defeat of Kitava. Because of the fall of the Templars and the destruction from Kitava, Kirak and others have formed what is called the Citizen Vanguard, a task force intended to protect Oriath from future threats. He feels that the Templar kept the true nature of the world hidden from the populace, but now the Roa's out of the sack, and it is up to the people to protect themselves. However, upon returning to Oriath, Kirak learned that his younger brother Baran had disappeared. Baran was last seen embarking on an expedition with Caesarius and several skilled exiles.
So this is actually potentially set before the Maven's event, because I mean, Baron is one of the. I'm pretty sure one of the Elder Slayers, right?
Not returned. Kirak's work in the military focused on tracking, so he plans on tracking down Xana to find out what has become of his brother. He is concerned because he's heard that many who have worked with Xana have ended up 2 pews short of a congregation.
Lol.
He knows that she used to work out of the Templar laboratory, which is accurate, so that is where we first look together. When we enter the Templar laboratory, the map device we had previously been able to use is glowing. As we inspect it, the parts spin faster, the light grows, and it explodes. It's not for Kirak to decide whether skulking around Oriath with mystical technologies that explode is a crime worthy of prison, but this does evoke from him the best line in the game. By the muscular golden arse of innocence, what was that?
Lol.
Baron had spoken of
I
map
like that line.
devices in his letters to Kirak. Now that this one is broken, Kirak will requisition a team of tinkerers and engineers, and, using the notes in this laboratory, construct a similar device.
For a device that a lot of people blame for, being very dangerous and potentially being the reason the world ends, they seem to be rebuilding it a lot. Or is it just me? Like there was the initial one that the people who imprisoned the Elder built, which made sense because the Elder was, on Wraeclast, killing, kidnapping and whatnot, facing off the nightmares and all of that stuff. So they did that, and then they destroyed the map device. Then Valdo recreated it. Then, he paused like halfway through. Then he started making his own designed to trap the Elder. So this is what already. This is two map devices made, and the first one is being repaired and 2 being created simultaneously. They destroy Valdo's personal one, and he fixes the initial one. So now there's 2 map devices. Then Xana, then I think through everything, the first one gets destroyed. Then Xana actually recreates the second one. Keep in mind, these are how many recreations already of the same device that is problematic. They recreate the Valdo's one, and then they do their whole thing. Then I think that is what is being destroyed, and now he wants to build a new one. Like, my guy, if this is as dangerous as you say, don't you think that might not be the best idea? Just a thought.
Our hideout will do nicely. And yes, Kirak knows about
Just a
our
thought.
hideout. He's a tracker after all. Kirak has heard a similar device was built for High Templar Venarius, who we know from my previous video on Shaper and the Elder is the High Templar who hired Valdo Caesarius to rebuild a map device found in Wraeclast. This ended in the Elder being released and Valdo living in the Atlas to stop the Elder, becoming the Shaper himself. Kirak believes that the impossible components...
Before I started watching these lore videos, I didn't realize the Shaper had a human face, or the Elder's face is just a mouth, basically. I didn't realize this before I started watching the videos, because like I just see 2 hooded figures, but the Elder is more creepy and all of that, while the Shaper, actually talks.
Needed to make a map device work would likely be in the vault of Venarius, located in the reliquary. Dominus, the High Templar elected directly after Venarius, had declared his predecessor's pursuits heretical and had them sealed as blasphemous. A load of manure to secure the secrets for himself, no doubt.
Of course.
A man like him would keep the key close.
Of course.
We go to the Templar courts, retrieve the vault...
This is heretical! Yo, can you recreate that real quick? Just keep it on the down low, okay? Just gonna make it. It is heretical! It is heretics! Condemn him! Execute him! But do recreate it. I need this for myself. He intends to? I mean,
from Dominus's desk.
He's def like you saw how Venarius reacted to the elders not even promises, because the elder didn't even promise anything, but like the potential of there being power for him. And I'm sure Dominus sees this as like, oh my god, power, give me.
And then head to the reliquary to open the vault of Venarius. We find the components we need to make a new.
I just find it weird because I mean, with Venarius, he kept everything down low, right? He it was only him, Valdo, Zena, and like his high court that knew about it. So there wasn't even need to like condemn the device when Dominus gets into power. Like the people who knew about it are already scarce. Like if you just kept it hush hush, you like, I don't think I don't think anyone will bat an eye, because they don't know that anything exists to bat an eye at, you know.
New map device and install it in our hideout. Kirak warns us to be careful, as this map device should either work perfectly or explode. Based on what we've seen, it might even do both.
Ah, yes, I like those odds.
Baron had sent drawings of maps, and Kirak is able to provide us a map to begin investigating Baran's disappearance in the Atlas. After running a few maps, Baran will open a portal into our map. When we defeat the boss of that map, Xana appears and scolds us. Do you have any idea what you've done? No
What?
one was ever meant to come back here. No one was ever meant to even know this place existed. Your brash stupidity may have just doomed everyone back home.
I'm sorry, what?
After her lecture, we follow Xana through a portal to an abandoned citadel. Inside is a small area surrounded by space, similar to the Shaper's realm. This implies that this is an area of creation, a pocket in the Atlas like Shaper used to manipulate realms. At the center is a watchstone altar. Xana tells us that they are trying to find their way back to Wraeclast, and they've been Xana to manipulate realms.
Wait, is it that? Okay, that's the exile. I was like, that kind of looks like an AG, but like that's actually the exile.
At the center,
That's funny.
back to Wraeclast, and they've been building these altars as a means of escaping from the Atlas. We don't have all the pieces to this story yet, but we now know that Baran is still alive.
So if you wanted to escape from the Atlas and you saw the exile, would you not want to go out of the Atlas with the exile? Or I'm confused, because like, if that is your goal, to leave the Atlas, you're going to have to create a portal to get to Wraeclast. Now, granted, he came to find you wherever you were, or he came to somewhere he shouldn't have, and that creates maybe a link to Wraeclast, right? Why not? Shouldn't your attention be to close said rift or whatever, or sever the link? Like get back and then sever the link. Like, I feel like darkness cannot be reserved by skills. Where was this confirmed?
In some form, but trapped in the Atlas. Apparently
Genuinely curious.
with others. Xana follows us back to our hideout, and once there, tells us what has happened to lead to this moment.
Okay.
As we know, Xana had been forming groups of exiles for an expedition.
Mm-hmm.
She now explains, "Some time ago, I took a group of exiles like yourself into the Atlas. Our task? To ensure a creature named the Elder never reached our world. Even though the exiles I recruited were adept combatants, the journey was difficult. Yet we succeeded. So this group of exiles, including Baran, was hired by Xana to defeat the Elder. Some of you may be picking up on the meta commentary from GGG here. We too have once been exiles hired by Xana to defeat the Elder and save the world and her father, the Shaper, from the Elder's decay." But Xana continues, "We defeated the Elder. Though we couldn't save, we still succeeded. One member of the group did not survive the mission, but the person who was lost wasn't Baran. I thought we were done, but my companions just kept returning. Over and over again, they would enter the Atlas, wiping clean entire worlds.
It's just what the top brass is saying. Okay. I mean, if you can't reserve it, so that means no auras or no No auras, no minions. It just means Acolyte of Chayela is not remotely feasible for minions whatsoever. It's still a decent mechanic. You just have to make sure that what you're getting from darkness is worth more than the spirits you would have had.
It wasn't about saving Oriath or discovery. It was just killing.
Wait, what?
This feels Oriath or discovery, wiping clean entire worlds. It wasn't about saving Oriath or discovery. It was just killing.
So us. She just described us. Like, we don't care about anything else. We just want to kill. We just want loot. It's about the loot. It's not about killing, okay? Like, killing is, of course, a big part of it. But we want the items. We want the loot. Why make us sound so evil? No, we just want loot. We may kill to get the loot, but the loot is the main attraction here.
This feels like GGG's way of poking fun at the power creep of players and their desire for never-ending mapping. These exiles, reflections of us players, got more and more powerful and murderous, to the point that Xana saw no other choice but to destroy our only way out. I sealed us all in and waited for death to find us. Instead, I found you. So Xana locked these exiles, Baran included, in the Atlas. She saw their power and thirst for killing as a threat to the world. These exiles represent our past actions. Now we are tasked by Kirak with finding Baran in the Atlas, but also warned by Xana of the corrupting influence of the Atlas, and that we must not let these exiles escape it. We have the basics of our task, but what really happened to these exiles working with Xana? As we pursue Baran and the other exiles in the Atlas, we find their journals, and through these we can put together what actually happened. The group consisted of Baran, Veritania, Drox, Alhesman, and Cirrus, who became the leader of the group. Xana must not have revealed to
Why does Sirius have no stomach? Like, why is there just space? Or, like, this looks like he has an invisible body, so maybe that's it. But, like, it just looks like there's space.
this group what happened to the other groups, but Alhesman was suspicious, writing, Xana, hiding something, but Xana must not have revealed to this group what happened to the other groups, but Alhesman.
So Alhesman was also in a group of exiles that Xana took into the Atlas, question mark?
Alhesman was suspicious, writing, Xana, hiding something important, not sure what yet. Probably related to what happened to the previous group. Keeps checking on us. After some time, the group eventually found the Elder. Cirrus describes their first encounter in his second journal. I've done a fair bit of traveling in my lifetime, as smugglers tend to. I'd seen some strange sights. I thought I was as brave as they come. What I saw today shook me to my core. It emerged from nothing, like mist rising from the water's edge, accompanied by dozens of shapeless things. Its arms were tangled and many, its mouth an endless black abyss.
So basically the Elder.
Just being in its presence, I could feel my life being ripped away, dissolving like sugar in water. After seeing the abomination that is the Elder, the group felt determined to stop it from reaching Wraeclast. Just like in the previous expansion, Xana's plan to defeat the Elder was to use a weapon her father, Valdo, had created to trap the Elder. When we retrieved this device in the past, Xana called it the Cosmic Arcana. With it, we can force the Elder from the maps and into the abstract of non-reality. With this weapon, the group tracked down the Elder once more, apparently using the same methods we had, finding the Elder within the Shaper's realm, where they may have even faced Uber Elder themselves. It's implied that the Shaper was present during their fight, that they had seen him before and knew his relation to Xana.
So how did we have the fights and these exiles did at the same time? Because we didn't have the fight with other exiles. we've never fought with Barandam. So it's definitely a different group of exiles. But this also happened alongside us going to fight him.
So I believe their fight played out almost identically to our own Uber Elder fight. Almost. Baran's third journal has a complete account of the journey to trapping Elder and the aftermath. It reads, "I know not how long we pursued the demon, long enough that my allies began to show signs of madness. We'd surely have fallen to the evil were it not for Sirius's courageous leadership and his sacrifice.
Ah, yes,
We could find
Sirius.
no way to slay the demon, though we tried countless times. It was the daughter of Valdo who found a way to seal it, though it cost poor Xana her father, rest his soul. Our gambit would have failed were it not for Sirius. The demon would not give in, clawing its way from Xana's device. Sirius, he leapt onto it. We saw the demon tap into his body, at last relinquishing its grip. Sirius and the demon spiraled into the trap and out of our reality, both gone. So Sirius is the exile who did not survive that Xana alluded to. We see through the exile's journals that the group had bonded. Veritania wrote, "For a brief time before we lost Sirius, I would have called these fellow exiles friends, perhaps even family. A certain bond forms between those who believe they are about to die. But we did not die. Sirius sacrificed himself, and we won the day." Xana and Sirius had become more than friends, in fact. Sirius wrote that, "We have cornered our foe in the heart of the Atlas," confirming they fought the Elder in the Shaper's realm. "My heart aches for Xana. Her father is caught in the center of this whole debacle, and I don't see any way he leaves this alive. We all realize these may be our last moments of life. If I survive after tomorrow, I'm going to tell her how I feel." It seems Sirius did not have the time to confess to Xana before his presumed death. Sirius sacrificed himself to make sure the Elder was truly trapped. And although the Elder was successfully sealed away, this is not the end of their story. The exiles remained in the Atlas, as Xana told us, returning many times to wipe clean entire worlds.
So is it a case of we seal the Elder comes back, and then we reseal it, but this time as a part of a team, where Sirius, being potentially us, seal the Elder again? But then us right now in the present time, going into the Atlas, we find the Xana that has been in the Atlas from like a future or something. What the fuck? Because like I'm trying to figure out how on earth they would link it to us. Like, and why the hell does the Elder need to be sealed twice in the exact same way?
During this time, the remaining members of the group seemed to be going mad. I'll describe each member of the group and their individual descents into madness, but the group's behavior was worrying Xana. And at some point, Sirius returned. According to Baran, then Sirius was there once more. None of us witnessed his return. His eyes did not move, he did not blink, and his mutterings, mad and unceasing. Then his face contorted in ways I'd seen only from men possessed
From
by the
YouTube.
Black Spirit.
Yep, I'm watching the lore of PoE 1 and our end game so far. Thank you for the follow, appreciate it. I'm trying to figure out what to call you, and I'm thinking Kautza is a
Hello
decent. Like, it's Kautza me saying it properly?
Spirit. He struck at us again and again. We could not restrain him. We had to flee that place. That is when we discovered our path home was sealed. Valdo's daughter sabotaged our return. I do not know how long we have been trapped here. Weeks.
So as of when Xana closed the portal, trapping them in the Atlas, Sirius was back. Name means the lost sock. All right. What do you want me to call you then? I can just call you Sock.
at least, probably years. Time in the Atlas is a mirage. From Baran's description, Cirrus seems possessed by the Elder. Perhaps being trapped in the cosmic arcana together, they fused somehow. It's hard to tell how much of Cirrus is left in this returned version of him. Is he simply a shell? Has the Elder taken all his memories like he did High Templar Venarius? Or is Cirrus using the Elder and is now more powerful, but still himself? And this is where we come in. Xana had been keeping these exiles, including the returned Cirrus, inside the Atlas to protect Wraeclast from their growing madness and hunger for power.
And then we just waltzed in there, created all like the portal they needed to get back, and we're like, you know, on a platter of gold, you can go back to Wraeclast if you anytime you need. Yo, I tell you, Xana is tired of our shit. She has to be.
Only knowing that his brother had disappeared, asked us to find Baran, created a map device for us to enter the Atlas, and now we have
Wait, what?
Kirak, only knowing that his brother had disappeared, asked us to find Baran, created a map device for us to enter the Atlas, and now we have potentially put the world at risk.
So that means at this point, when we enter the lab and the Atlas like blows up, this is essentially where Xana destroys the portal, trapping them in the Atlas.
So we must stop these exiles from returning to our world. Before looking at each individual, let's discuss the nature of the Atlas. After all,
yeah, Xana's tired of our shit, and I don't blame her. Like, honestly, she literally sacrificed herself, thinking, okay, at least Wraeclast is safe, and then we just waltzed in with a portal saying, "What's up?"
all this, Xana now believes that the Atlas itself has awful powers, where before she believed the corruption and madness that destroyed her father were all from the Elder.
So wait, is this to say the reason why what I mentioned, i.e., people keep rebuilding the Atlas, despite it being the obvious reason our world will be destroyed, is because the Atlas is influencing the people who around it to then make them rebuild it. After all, if we look back at when Valdo was making the Atlas, it wasn't, I mean, granted it was the Elder, but like it kind of taught him how to make the final piece. even for his own map device. So like, I mean, she has a will of its own, it sounds like. It actually sounds like it has a will of its own.
Xana says, "There are times when I feel like the Atlas is watching me, observing me, and offering me a glimpse of my desires to keep me coming back. It's as though the deeper into it I explore, the more it wraps it."
I said this once and I'll say it again. This is every single person describing their PoE1 experience when they got hooked. This is it.
Coming back, observing me, and offering me a glimpse of my desires to keep me coming back. It's as though the deeper into it I explore, the more it wraps itself around my mind.
The accuracy.
And the remaining exiles had experienced this as well, being fed visions of their greatest desires, pulling them deeper into the Atlas to pursue them. Veritania in particular was adept at noticing the power of the Atlas. In her first journal, she writes that, "This so-called Atlas makes me uneasy. When the Elder and the Shaper fought for dominion, there was a known purpose behind the miscreations we fought. Now that those purposes are gone, these lands have reverted to a primordial..."
Gonna watch your playthrough in PoE2? Well, I'll be happy to have you on launch day. And I should have the VODs on YouTube. Twitch is going to expire after like, I don't know how long, but after a while. But YouTube should have my VODs. And I think because I'm streaming on YouTube, the 24-hour plus VOD will also be there. So you can see the entire progression. If you want to kind of build what I'm building, you can kind of follow along as well. If that's what, if that interests you. It's going to be quite the adventure on Friday.
primordial, malleable clay, which seems to offer.
I'm kind of curious how minions would feel against the bosses and whatnot. You know, those pinnacle, those end game pinnacle bosses, and the hush hush one. Which, by the way, I'm probably going to avoid PoEDB like the plague. I'm curious as to like specters and whatnot, but until I see that final boss, I'm just going to like avoid any data mine information that could potentially spoil it. Never done minions? Yeah, minions are fun. And with the fact that they auto revive in PoE too, like that just fixes one of the biggest pain points about playing minions in PoE 1. Like, I can't tell you how annoying it is to have to manually resummon specters in PoE 1. But like the fact that the only downside to PoE 2 is because you're restricted to, I think it was 12 skill gems. If you're dealing with like a more complex minion army, you will have to use multiple different skill gems for your race specters. But like that is not the biggest issue, because it's just a limit, right? You just have to figure out, okay, this is how many I want or whatever. Yeah, fun fact, I wasn't even playing PoE back in Scourge. Like my first ever PoE 1 league was Sanctum. So it was literally 3.20. So just 2 years ago, that's when I started playing PoE.
Offer up our every desires as offering and appeasement. It seems the Atlas, without the war between Shaper and Elder to configure itself to, was now attempting to mimic what the exiles would desire. Veritania continues.
I think it'd be fun to figure out where to spend in the start. Exactly. That is why up to this moment, I have actively like avoided skill tree spoilers, because I kind of want the whole tree to be new. So it's going to be exciting seeing what is there. I have an idea of like some nodes, but I actively avoided knowing what the tree overall looks like. But B, not only would it be refreshing, I'd also be curious as to see how I build it. And I'm going to keep track of like how I build my first character compared to like how I build a character in like 3 months. Because at that point, I would have figured out the game a whole lot more, and I would obviously have it down to almost a science when it comes to certain minion builds. But like, I want to see how close to that final version I was in my first try. And of course, it's always just nice to, this is the only time I'm going to have a new game in PoE 2. Like, this is literally the first and only time I'm going to have that. And after this, the game, like, people would know about the game. But like, this is the one where like nobody knows shit. Yeah, it is. It's a new game. Mechanics are different. Everything works slightly different. Even just hopping from PoE 1 to PoE 2, there are things you would have to reconcile. Like the fact that spells and attacks, for the purpose of like blocking and whatnot, are the same thing in PoE 2, but in PoE 1, very different things. So like, it's going to be quite the adjustment. And there's so many things right now that nobody even knows how they really work. Like ignites, people don't really know how it works. Because of the way it's been described to like deal with the chance and the magnitude and everything. People don't really know. We kind of have rough ideas, but we don't know for a fact. So Friday is going to be something. Friday is going to be something. I'm also looking forward to seeing just how many people PoE 2's Twitch sub like directory has on Friday, because it is going to be full. Like hundreds of thousands of people watching that. Everybody's going to be watching this. Everybody. Easily, yeah. Like, cause like everybody wants to play PoE 2. Everybody's waiting for like all the big streamers. So like we are literally going to be in for quite a treat on Friday. It's going to be this massive. Even war chat is going to be funny as hell, I'm sure. Oh, it's gonna be something. It definitely is.
A pure being might think this is paradise, but we are mortal and brimming with vices. Desire is the true enemy here. Veritania was suspicious of the Atlas's malleability, writing, "I know not how many days passed, for the sun is false in this place."
I got party of 5, 4 are excited, the other one's got kids. I mean, They shall join you when they've put the kids to sleep and they can grind. And worst case scenario, when you're asleep, they can grind if they really wanted to know life. If they really wanted to.
Each valley I tread has
But I mean, real life comes first at the end of the day. This is a video game.
Does each valley only have a sky because I expect that too? I no longer believe anything at all.
Oh.
But Drox,
wait, what?
Sky is past, for the sun is false ability. Writing, I know not how many days passed, for the sun is false in this place. I suspect each valley I tread has a sun only because I expect it to be hanging in the sky.
Oh,
Does
shit.
each valley only have a sky because I expect that too? I no longer believe anything at all. But Drox saw opportunity within this malleability, proclaiming, each valley I secure adds to the width and...
That's Vine online before start. Alright. Talk to you soon. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you. See you potentially on Friday.
breadth of my lands. Yet when I return, they seem populated by phantasms and twisted imaginings.
Oh yeah, and good luck at work.
Yet I find I secure adds to the width and breadth of my lands. Yet when I return, they seem populated by phantasms and twisted imaginings once more. Yet I find that the mists hearken to my expectations in subtle ways as my strength grows. Perhaps I can control this realm with greater finesse as my might becomes unquestionable. Regardless of their initial stance on the Atlas, all eventually fell prey to the whims of it.
They embraced the fact that they could
us,
shape
to dwell
it.
there is to leave yourself vulnerable to unspeakable madness. It's inescapable and insidious. It taps into your greatest desires, offering you a glimpse of what might be, and that temptation. It's all I could do to stop myself from falling into the same patterns as my friends. First, we will look at Baran, Kirak's younger brother, and a former Templar. He was exiled, but still remained faithful to his belief in innocence. He went on this mission with Xana to protect his fellow exiled Templars, writing in his first journal, "To my brothers and sisters of the Templar faith in exile, Hercules, Gomen, Cassia, and Landrin, I bequeath
Hey, Sister Cassia!
to you my home in Oriath, that you might never be without one again." Perhaps he was exiled because he was a gay man, and his lover was the last person mentioned, Landrin. His second journal reads, "My dearest Landrin, how I wish I could have spent but a few more moments with you, and felt your hand in mine just one more time. Fate has seen to it that, like our days in the courts, duty must come before desire. Know that I did it all so that you might be safe. I
So
hope
that's
you
his
find
motivation in
happiness."
going into the
After
Atlas?
defeating the Elder, Baran wanted to establish the Templar faith, at least belief in innocence, within the Atlas. But he was tormented by
Wait, if nothing but monsters are within the Atlas, why are you trying to establish a Templar faith in there? Like, what is the goal?
at least belief in innocence within the Atlas.
Why?
But he was tormented by the return of Cirrus, who seemed to have some new power, either from the Elder or from the Atlas, to manipulate him. The group had been slowly breaking apart as each person began pursuing their own vision. But Cirrus was following Baran. It was inescapable. Even when we splintered, his voice wrapped around our heads like a snake, squeezing every other thought into warped shapes. I could not hear God's whispers with such constant noise. I dare not visit him now. I want only to escape this prison and punish that insolent blasphemer, Caesarius, and her foolishness.
Oh, Xana.
2 notes. Baran says they splintered, which might refer to the group separating, but could mean something else. The
Their
Atlas
minds.
does allow strange powers, so possibly they were manipulating space, reality, or themselves into splinters. Second, it seems Baran went to visit Cirrus after his return with someone else, or multiple people. After the returned Cirrus attacked them, some members of the group still visited him. But who? I'm not sure, as Xana insists she didn't know of Cirrus's return. Baran was the last person to leave Xana's group. Xana tells us that she was fond of Baran, and they bonded over mutual distaste for Dominus. Even if Xana tended to agree with Veritania's secular views, Baran was still a firm believer that trust in God was necessary for good moral judgment. Despite everything the Templar put him through, his faith was unshaken. In their last exchange before Baran left, he accused Xana of being a shadowy demon meant to draw him away from the righteous path. Baran became Baran the Crusader. Veritania, as Xana mentioned, was a secular woman, who initially appeared the most level-headed and humanitarian of the group. She was exiled for her charity work. Helping one too many mistreated Mariketh or Karui made powerful people in Oriath very angry.
Of course it
Once on
did.
their mission, Veritania used her intellect to guide the group, and her kindness to soothe their arguments and concerns. She was the first to pick up on the realities of dwelling in the Atlas. She compared it to a time long ago, before I was exiled. I wandered a hall of mirrors at a carnival in Theopolis. I saw myself reflected into infinity, finally obscured not by any horizon, but by the darkening and shrinking of my own image as it grew more and more distant behind echoes of itself. The mists of the Atlas are the same. There is only my will, my thoughts, and my expectations, reflected as countless echoes through a vast and immeasurable space. While Veritania may not have had her own desires in the Atlas, it still found a way to manipulate her. She grew disdain for the others and their pursuits for power. We are drifting apart. Each of us sees that which we desire on the formless horizon, and each of us pursues our own path. I saw Baran continuing his crusade in a righteous wrath. I would not call myself bitter, but I do see the others descending while I remain steadfast in my convictions. Drox believes he can forge a new land here with himself as king. Alhesman seeks to hone his skills against even more dangerous enemies in a vain attempt to be more powerful than Drox and Baran. They are all becoming disgusting. She began seeing herself as the only pure one, the only one capable of resisting the Atlas's whims.
Oh, how misguided
now.
she is.
I must serve as the moral heart of this place. The others have become not.
This is like that moment, and I think we've all experienced this at some point when you're feeling sleepy, and maybe you're studying or something, so you're deep in thought, thinking about something to the point where you sleep off, and in your head you're thinking about what you're thinking about, but in reality you're sleeping, and then eventually it's like, oh shit, I woke up. You wake up and realize, oh, you're sleeping, right? That's what this sounds like.
But delusional.
Like you're losing your shit and you don't know, you think you're the only one not losing your shit. Meanwhile, you're so far gone you can't even see it.
Delusional addicts lost in a haze of indulgence, and the thought of them makes me nauseous. The pure require strength to impose order on a chaotic world, and I cannot allow the likes of Alhesman or Drox to spread their filthy vices. Like the Templars, Veritania began thinking that the only way to save the world was to purify it, which meant purging it. In her 4th journal, she writes with great agitation, "Do you not see how repugnant you are? Stop consuming, stop partaking, and look at the abomination you have become. Every morsel you stuff down your gullet and every lie you tell yourself just makes you that much more monstrous. You are changing. You are misshapen. Do you not see yourself? I shall save you from your own vices by purging your weakness." According to Xana, Veritania was the 3rd person to leave the group, after accusing Xana of using the mysteries of the Atlas as a drug to distract herself from the loss of her father. Veritania became Veritania the Redeemer.
Wait. Using the mysteries of the Atlas as a drug to distract. Oh, okay, Xana
Of the Atlas as a drug to distract herself from the loss of her father. Veritania became Veritania the.
Does she still think she's righteous for even right now? To this point in the Atlas when we fight her.
Redeemer. Veritania left the.
Well, she's the Redeemer, so I guess she does.
group because Drox had left, and Drox was the only one who could meet Veritania's increasingly high standards. Drox was a warrior, and although Cirrus was their leader, Drox would lead the group in combat. He was initially haughty but kind, and Xana says, "He led us through numerous situations we thought fatal with an unflagging warm grin that let us know he believed in us." Drox saw potential in the Atlas even
Give me a second. I need to go get some water real quick. BRB. Okay, I'm back. And I have water.
even before madness sunk in, as a place where he could establish a kingdom of law and justice, free from the rule of the Templars. No more will we have to fear those in power, for I shall be the one who leads, and by my strength the law will be equal and fair for all. They will be free, and I will be their lord, ruling by the people's respect rather than through fear or religion. Drox had visions of grandeur in
Isn't it ironic that they showed Crown of the Tyrant when they said that? So I assume he's a tyrant.
They will be free,
In question.
and I will be their lord, ruling by the people's respect rather than through fear or religion. Drox had visions of grandeur in his first journal, so by his fourth journal he was fully invested. The people hail their king. They cheer for the awe and power of my reign as I fell enemy after enemy in a blaze of golden glory. I shall never rest, so that my people may fill the valleys of the Atlas and prosper. They will know me as they know the sun, shining on them as I pass in a golden blaze.
This guy's
As
ego,
Drox began
top notch.
pursuing his vision, his demeanor changed. Xana recalls, at some point, almost imperceptibly, Drox stopped making decisions for the group and started focusing only on his new dream. His smiles turned to scowls. He remained fixated on this mad idea of building a kingdom in the Atlas. His obsession was putting us in danger, and that is something I could not tolerate. When I led the group away from him, he either didn't notice or didn't care. Drox became Drox, the warlord. The fourth exile in this group was Al-Hezmin. Al-Hezmin was an excellent tracker and hunter, and acted as the survival guide. He took notes as they progressed through the Atlas, such as, the old man, Xana knows him, grandfather, mentor, Either way, he
Shipper.
doesn't seem to recognize her. Impressive powers. Must be careful around him. And Cirrus. Quiet, but when he does speak, he speaks with authority. Likes Xana? Definitely something going on there.
Al
His
Hesmin,
skills
the
allowed
greatest
group
hunter
to
alive.
survive the ever-shifting Atlas.
He is definitely
As
humble.
Xana says, when you spend as much time in the Atlas as we did, basic survival skills no longer suffice, and it becomes necessary to master the lay of the land. That's a tall ask in a place where the land changes from day to day, and yet Al-Hesmin took to it like a roa to mud. Al-Hesmin saw himself as the most skilled hunter,
I don't want to read this. Al Hesmin took so it's like about times he saved us from getting an endless twisting cavern.
Al-Hesmin saw himself as the most skilled hunter in the group, and his madness centered around proving himself as the best. In his third journal, he wrote, "Yesterday, I hunted a boar for the group. Today, Drox brought back 2. Tomorrow, I'll bring back 3. Show that loud idiot that I'm the top hunter."
Of course.
Most of his ire was directed at Drox, who he saw as his biggest competition for being the most capable after Cirrus's disappearance. Al-Hesmin was the first to leave the group, but it was actually because Xana had the others sneak away from him in the night. In battle, he had to deal the flashiest and most devastating blows, and he had to make sure we all saw him do it. His fixation on honing his skills was actually quite useful during our campaign against the Elder.
Yeah, just
It hollowed
sneak
him
out the
in
back,
some
cause like,
fundamental way.
nah.
He was full of bravado, and yet at the same time desperately afraid of being exposed as merely second or third best. He was never unkind to me, even as the madness crept upon him, but for capable warriors like Drox that threatened his self-image, a clash was inevitable. We slipped away in the dead of night, but I doubt we've escaped a man of his talents. Al-Hesmin became Al-Hesmin, the Hunter. The final exile was Cirrus, their leader, who had sacrificed himself to save the others and seal the Elder, but has now returned in the Atlas. Cirrus was a smuggler and explorer. From his journals, he seemed kind, strong, and empathetic. His first journal reads, "I hate this place. I hate what it makes us do. I don't want to be in charge of these people because I don't believe we will survive this, and it will be my fault." Even though Cyrus had his concerns, his feelings for Xana trumped them. He felt that his life before was purposeless, but now, after encountering the Elder, he saw his purpose. If it weren't for Xana, I'd probably still be miserable. I'll do it for her.
Jonathan, thank you for the
final battle
follow.
with the Elder,
Appreciate
Cirrus
it.
wrote
How you
that
doing?
He would confess his feelings to Xana after the fight.
Mm-hmm.
But he
We
had to
saw this
sacrifice
before.
himself instead. There are journals from after his return to the Atlas.
But I mean, so nice if for some weird reason he had a journal to write his escapades in the void with the Elder, you know, day whatever,
where he
even though there are
recounts
actually no
what
days.
happened to him. In Cirrus's fourth journal, he writes,
See how he slowly descends into madness, into the Sirius we know today, and you know, love for loot.
"I remember seeing a light swallowed in an orb of darkness, suspended. I remember its hands reaching out for something to hold. Desperation. I remember stepping forward. I wasn't thinking of myself or of Oriath. I was thinking of my friends and of my brothers and sisters whose lives depended on me. I remember its cold grip tightening. Then I slipped away. I remember glass, encased in glass. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, but I could see everything. I saw everything. I saw everyone, saw them leave, saw her leave. It was all so quick. 1,000 days and nights passes in a flash. Then, nothing. I felt nothing. No sadness or anger, no joy, no pain, no pleasure. I was free. Free to move, to go where I please. Free of desire. Free to see the universe for what it was. Empty. Cirrus seems to have lost all feelings. For Xana, for the others, for the world. Whether the Elder possessed him or Cirrus gained the Elder's powers, now he is pursuing the others and driving them further into madness.
So wait, so when he got dragged in by the Elder into the void, basically, he could still see them in that room, and then when they left him up, it's like, oh fuck, yo, is this that what's going on there? Like what? Maybe.
Now he is Cirrus, the Awakener. Defeating
He's
the Elder
awakened.
cannot save the exiles from the corruption of the Atlas. One by one, they dwindled from the group. It seems Xana locked everyone inside the Atlas before the group had entirely disbanded, as Baran wrote in his second journal that, "It seems we may never leave this strange place. Our guide claims the device we used to come here has been broken and cannot be fixed, and that it would take a miracle for a path home to open." It's unclear whether Cirrus appeared before or after the group completely disbanded, because Xana claims to have not known of his return. But the exiles still within the Atlas, at least Baran, have been affected by him, and Baran implied that he is with other people when Cirrus returned. At this point, it's hard to entirely trust Xana's recollection. If Kirak knew that Xana's former exiles went mad, wouldn't Xana have known? If she'd been on these expeditions before, wouldn't the others' madness have manifested in similar ways? Did Xana know Cirrus had returned, but tried to hide it from us? And what does she plan to do to us if we don't follow her instructions or meet her expectations? Kirak himself has his doubts, saying, "So that's it then. Baran can't be saved. Caesarius, did she understand the costs? Did she know the fate she was consigning my brother to?" But Baran seems to believe Xana did the right thing. When we meet and defeat Baran for the first time, he drops.
There had to have been like someone needed to deal with the Elder. Like let's be real, the Elder was there. It needed to be done.
Something called a Watchstone. Before he disappears after the fight, he says, "Kirak sent you? You must keep him out of the Atlas. I cannot be saved. He will only find his own doom. He will end up like me. Tell Xana she was right to seal us away. Cirrus must never be." Which supports Xana's decision. Xana explains what the Watchstone is and how we might use it. Superficially, it resembles a virtue gem, but I don't think that's quite what it is. When Xana and her exiles sealed the Elder in her father's cosmic arcana, some of my father's memories were expelled, along with those of the Elder's countless other victims. These stones are what's left of the Elder's victims, crystallized and concentrated. To hold one is to hold countless lives in your hand, to fill your mind with a maddening mix of sounds and images and emotions. Perhaps the Watchstones are the cause of the voices Baran was hearing. Like virtue gems, these stones have souls or memories trapped inside them. With their power, we can unlock deeper realms within the Atlas to find the exiles, who Xana now calls the Elder Slayers. But Xana does not trust us to handle the Watchstones ourselves. They are intoxicatingly powerful. It took all my willpower to lift my hand from the stone and step away. I can't in good conscience let you take them, but that doesn't mean we can't use them in our fight against the Elder Slayers. Xana fears we will end up like the Elder Slayers if given access to this power. Perhaps there is a link between their madness and their access to these Watchstones. But if the madness is from the Atlas itself, are we really safe? And with Xana's long exposure to the Atlas and
is
her
she
use
herself?
of the Watchstones, is she? Once we've gathered 20 Watchstones by finding and defeating the 4 Elder Slayers,
So this is
Moran,
what the
Veritania,
Watchstones looked like
Drox,
before.
and Alhesman, Cirrus appears. Xana exclaims, "No, Cirrus is still alive? Gods, I thought he was dead. He took the brunt of the energy released when we sealed the Elder. How did he survive?" Again, it's hard to tell if she's truly surprised. Kirak joins us and Xana as we pursue Cirrus. Xana tells Cirrus she wants to help him, which echoes her exchange with Shaper in the past. He responds, Destroying you is as easy as flicking a pest, and attempts to harm Xana. But
Then
Kirak
Kyrak-
steps in the way.
I was not
Sirius
expecting Kyrak to
continues,
step in the way.
You want the Atlas? Take it. But Oriath? Oriath I will burn to the ground. Perhaps the suffering of my fellow citizens will stir something.
He wants to feel
Sirius
something.
then turns and disappears into a portal to Oriath. We pursue him and fight him and his raging storms in the Oriath Square, as if Theopolis hasn't seen enough destruction.
Naturally.
After a grueling fight, we defeat Sirius, who admits, "At least I felt something." But Theopolis is in ruins. Afterwards, we meet up with Kirak and Xana, along with others who used to populate the Oriath Square, in the new epilogue, a tiny island off the Karui archipelago. Xana is distraught at losing Oriath and Sirius. Kirak tells us that his citizen vanguard started an evacuation from Oriath to this Karui island, noting that it's no small irony that the Oriathan people now depend upon the Karui we once enslaved. I always said that if you kick a Roa in the arse, one day it'll kick you in the head, but I underestimated the honor of our new hosts. It seems, for now, that things have settled. Perhaps this is a new beginning. Perhaps we can settle here.
Perhaps
stay in one place for a
we
change.
decide to go back into the
But
Atlas
is anything
for
ever
loot.
really over? Xana asks us, but is
Yes, we want
anything
more.
ever really over?
We will always want
Xana
more.
asks us, but at least you're done now, right, Exile? You'll leave the Atlas alone, right?
Yeah, nice joke, Xana.
Another meta question from GGG, as we all know no one stops mapping after they've beat Endgame. And Kirak is still suspicious of Xana, saying, "I'll keep my counsel on the topic of Xana, thank you."
I love how everybody says like, you know, the Atlas is so dangerous and you know you need to stop and everything. But like the default every player just goes through is just map. Just run. You just keep looting, keep killing, keep looting. Like literally now we're literally keeping track of like kill counts, loot drops, all these different things. Just keep killing. And you can imagine it, from a lore point of view, we are actually descending into madness. Like genuinely, that's what we're doing, driven by the probably pursuit of riches. We just keep going. We just keep going, unable to stop. We just keep sending maps, man. We just keep going. Our exiles are not saying the answer to the question. Still saying exile is no. Nah,
However,
we
it
are
seems
not.
Someone reported to the magistrates that she's innocent of all her supposed underhanded activities. Funny, that. So Xana is still not claiming any responsibility for what has transpired, and at least in this instance, is feigning ignorance. Notably, Sin and Innocence have not joined us on this new Karui island. Perhaps Innocence has finally taken his trip south that he discusses with Sin after we defeat Kitava in Act 10. Perhaps this Karui island is the starting point for PoE 2, as it's a new location not under the rule of the Templars. But as I mentioned in my video on the Ezamites, the PoE 2 trailer mentions the first ones, who are Ezamite gods. The Karui have no love for the Ezamites or their gods, and neither does Kirak. Will there be a connection between this Conquerors of Atlas expansion and the story of PoE 2? Where have Sin and Innocence gone? Are they together? And why? And is there really such a thing as too much killing in the Atlas? Many noticed with this expansion, when Xana asks us if we are still sane, Exile,
Still
it is with
sane,
a
Exile.
much more pointed tone. Xana has already punished our past incarnations in the form of the trapped and maddened conquerors stuck in the Atlas. I wonder how long Xana will tolerate us. Thank you so much for watching.
The lore of this, the lore of the entire Elder Slayers, the Atlas. It's honestly been a lot more fun than I expected it to be. And we still have more. We have this. We don't have time to watch it today. and we're not going to be live tomorrow. So what might happen is we might try to just watch this last one before PoE2 on launch day, basically before the servers let us in. That might be what we end up doing. But like, everything makes sense now, kind of. I always wonder, like, there's this question I've had for in-game design, for example, with PoE2, and that is, what comes first? Do they decide what the general, like, what the boss is going to do first, like mechanically, then they create a lore around that, or do they have the lore first, which I assume it's the lore first, then you create a boss with that thematic and whatever mechanics. Like, that's my assumption. But like, it's such an intriguing thing where it's like, okay, we want to make PoE2. Where do we begin? What do we just start sending, like, creating enemies, archetypes, or what, or do, like, we have to actually come up with the lore first before we go forward with creating enemies and notable, like, bosses and whatnot. But yeah, really good videos all around. So we watched this one, and then we watched Conquerors of the Atlas. So now we kind of get the gist of Sirius, the Elder Slayers, the Elder fights, even Maven. So what is Siege of the Atlas? I guess this is the Exarch and Eta one. This is when they probably added Exarch and Eta. So we get to hear about... I also would have liked to find out about the Pale Council, but I guess we'll find out a different time. But yeah, hopefully we're able to watch something like this before tomorrow or before launch. I doubt we'll be able to finish this on Friday. I highly doubt it, but we might start it and just see how far we can get before we start going through PoE2 lore. And again, like I've said, I'm really hoping that PoE2 allows us to, or gives us a pretty good way to understand the lore other than just reading big blocks of text. And if it does, then we might just have to wait for a kitten video on PoE2. Just saying. We might end up having to do that. But yeah, that's all for today. We're going to be back on Friday with a 24+ hour stream, so do check that out because it's going to be fun. We're going to be league starting minions. We're going to be going Witch. The current plan is Witch anyways, with Infernalist Ascendancy. And I'd have no idea what I plan to league start in terms of the actual minions. I do know I plan on playing around with a bunch of different things, including, you know, bone constructs, unpowered zombies, all the works. So it should be a fun time. Anyways, till then, thank you for stopping by. Appreciate y'all.